Chapter 9:36. In the distance, the group of spirit light people were forced to stop because of this terrifying aura and looked at Zhao Fu seriously. They felt that if they took another step, their lives would be in danger. After all, there were 4 world protectors in front of them. This was especially so for the world protector who had just appeared. That supreme emperor's aura caused the 3 world protectors to feel a trace of fear. Emochi's expression was quite unsightly as he said to the cloaked figure, "I never thought that you would also come, and you're even stronger." Cayman and Shao looked at Emochi, feeling quite surprised that Emochi knew this terrifying person. However, since this person dared to steal the primogenitor statue, they were destined to be enemies. There was nothing to discuss, especially since Shao had just obtained the primogenitor statue and was about to leave. Hurry up and hand over the primogenitor statue, or else don't blame me for being impolite. Zhao's dark green eyes gave off a dense killing intent as she looked at that person. "Sir, that primogenitor statue belongs to my spirit light race. I advise you to return it to me, or else I'll have to attack," Cayman threatened as he looked at that person. That person raised his head, revealing a pair of terrifying eyes. He did not say anything and only calmly stuffed the primogenitor statue into his cloak. When the primogenitor statue had appeared, Zhao Fu's main body in the human world had not sensed it, but his clone in the dark demon world had sensed how terrifying this power was, so he had not hesitated to come. After looking through the primogenitor statue's information, Zhao Fu felt quite delighted. This was a very rare treasure and was incredibly powerful. It was very useful to the spirit light race, but if it fell into someone else's hands, it would be a trump card against the spirit light race. As such, Zhao Fu could not give it up. After putting away the primogenitor statue, Zhao Fu quickly retreated, planning to leave this place. After all, this was someone else's territory, and there were 3 world protectors here. Seeing Zhao Fu's actions, Shao felt quite furious. She waved her finger, and countless bandages flew out, giving off immense power as they flew towards Zhao Fu. Facing the corpse puppet's attack, a powerful wave of 6 paths of reincarnation power flowed out from Zhao Fu's body, and a gray orb that was as big as a walnut instantly condensed in front of Zhao Fu. It gave off an incredibly terrifying aura and was definitely an incredibly dangerous item. At that moment, countless bandages flew over with immense power, but Zhao Fu did not do anything. The gray ball in front of him shot towards the corpse puppet incredibly quickly, reaching it in an instant. Shao was startled, and countless bandages flew towards the gray ball, but the gray ball suddenly exploded. A terrifying shockwave tore apart the bandages, and Shao was forced back a few steps. Her expression became even more serious. She had never thought that Zhao Fu's body would also have Death Race's power, and it was even more powerful than hers. After all, she had the most top-tier power in the corpse pall world, and that person's Death Race's power was of a higher grade than hers. Just who is this person? He looks like a human, but he has such a high-grade Death Race's power. The instant that Zhao Fu pushed back the corpse puppet, Emochi and Cayman simultaneously attacked. Emochi unhesitatingly exploded out with his full power, which was many times more powerful than before. This made Cayman feel quite surprised, and he looked as if he was going all out. However, Emochi's battle with him had not been like this. For this cloaked figure to be treated like this by Emochi, Zhao Fu had to be careful. Boom! Emochi raised a demon sword with both hands and sent large amounts of demonic chi into it, causing it to give off a shocking demonic light. A powerful sword chi storm blew out, and the sword ferociously slashed toward Zhao Fu. The terrifying power seemed to be able to kill everything. Facing Emochi's full-powered attack, Zhao Fu did not dare to be careless. He took out the Death Disaster Sword and sent large amounts of power into it. The Death Disaster Sword gave off a cold gray light, and Zhao Fu vigorously slashed out, sending out a powerful sword light. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the 2 massive rays of sword light collided and exploded. The countless rays of sword chi shot out like countless sharp blades, bringing with them a terrifying shockwave, causing Mo Chi and the other two to retreat a few steps and enter a defensive state. Zhao Fu did not move as 9 black dragons floated out of his body, and a powerful emperor's aura burst out like a fountain. The countless rays of sword chi and explosive power were completely blocked by the 9 black dragons. They were not able to injure Zhao Fu at all. This caused Cayman and Shi Xiao to feel quite startled. They had never thought that Zhao Fu was already a true king, and with that terrifying aura, he was not an ordinary barony kingdom king. Just who was this person in front of them? Cayman and Shi Xiao felt quite curious. Seeing that he had not been able to injure Zhao Fu at all, Mo Chi's expression became even more unsightly, and he loudly called out, "I don't want that primogenitor statue anymore. I need to kill this Prince Qin right here, or else you'll regret it in the future." Prince Qin. This was the first time Cayman and Shi Xiao had heard of this name, and they understood that this person was Prince Qin, even though they did not know much about him. For Mo Chi to not want the primogenitor statue and to fight with his life on the line, they could see how powerful this Prince Qin was. The primogenitor statue could not fall into anyone else's hands, so Cayman roared and did not hesitate. His body exploded out with a blinding divine light as he raised his spear and stabbed at Zhao Fu. In order to snatch the primogenitor statue, Shi Xiao did not hesitate to attack with all of her strength. A massive gray-white aura flowed out of her body as she gripped her hands, causing countless bandages to form 2 thin cloth swords in her hands as she rushed at Zhao Fu. Facing these 2 people's attacks, Zhao Fu understood that if he did not force them back, he would not be able to leave this place. As such, his expression became serious. Within Zhao Fu's body, the Qin royal seal continuously trembled, and a massive wave of power flowed out of Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu stepped out and slashed out with unparalleled power, sending Cayman flying. He then slashed out with his sword, forcing Shi Xiao back. Following this, he once again slashed out with his sword, and a terrifying sword light shot towards an empty space. A white-haired, white-eyed young man was forced out by this sword light. This young man's aura was extremely powerful, and he was another world protector. There were now 5 world protectors gathered here, causing the spirit light people in the distance to feel incredibly shocked. This was something that had never happened before. However, no one dared to take a step forwards, because with those terrifying shock waves, even a great city lord would be instantly killed. The power of 5 world protectors was simply too monstrous. This caused them to feel despair. Chapter 9:37. After speaking, the young man exploded out with a terrifying aura as he took out a thin saber and slashed at Zhao Fu. He was incredibly savage and showed no mercy at all. This person had come for the primogenitor statue and had been hiding by the side, waiting for an opportunity to attack. If Zhao Fu did not force him out and he suddenly attacked, things would be even more troublesome. Xing, the young man savagely slashed towards Zhao Fu's head, and Zhao Fu blocked with his sword. As the saber and sword collided, a metallic sound rang out. At that moment, the corpse puppet took this opportunity to attack. Massive amounts of gray-white corpse chi gathered in front of her and formed 100 corpse dogs that were dozens of meters long. Their gazes were savage, and their fangs gave off cold light as they ran toward Zhao Fu. They were incredibly fast, and in just an instant, they were 10 or so meters away from Zhao Fu. At that moment, the corpse dog leapt toward Zhao Fu and opened its mouth as it bit toward Zhao Fu, giving off a putrid stench. Just as the corpse dog was about to bite Zhao Fu in half, Zhao Fu coldly harumphed, and the 9 black dragons around him roared. Even though they were small, they gave off immense auras as they slammed towards the corpse dog, causing it to explode into countless traces of corpse chi and dissipate. The 9 black dragons continued to rush towards the corpse puppet. However, at that moment, Mo Chi stretched out a hand, and demonic chi flowed out, forming a sinister demonic hand that grabbed Zhao Fu's body. This hand was dozens of meters wide, and let alone a person, it could even crush a small mountain. Seeing that Zhao Fu had been grabbed by the demonic hand, everyone relaxed and thought that they would be able to control Zhao Fu. Ghost Devour. However, a cold cry sounded out from within the massive hand, causing Mochi to howl and pull back his hand. Countless ghosts opened their mouths and bit at the demonic hand. The 6 gray dots in Zhao Fu's right eye continuously spun, and an eerie aura spread out like a flood. Ghosts appeared around Zhao Fu and roared as they opened their mouths and ferociously leapt at the people around them. This Ghost Devour was an eye technique from the Ghost Eyes, and Zhao Fu had only used it for the first time with the 6 paths of reincarnation power. The effects were quite shocking. Facing the flood of ghosts, Emochi and the others swung their weapons, easily killing 1,000 of them. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu lightly shouted, "Soldier!" Zhao Fu started to use his Ghost God Soldier ability, and the countless ghosts leaping at the 4 of them instantly turned into different weapons. There were sabers, swords, spears, axes, and so on. There were simply too many of them, and they covered the sky. After these weapons appeared, they gave off sharp auras as they ferociously shot towards the 4 ghost protectors. The 4 of them were greatly alarmed and hurriedly defended with all their strength. They swung their weapons, and the countless weapons formed from ghosts were cut into countless pieces. However, their bodies were also cut by the sharp blades, and long wounds appeared on their bodies. The people watching in the distance felt quite shocked and sighed. That person was so powerful. Just by himself, he was able to force the 4 world protectors into a corner. Even if people like them rushed up, they would die in a few seconds. Zhao Fu did not have the time to continue fighting with them. He had come to steal the primogenitor statue, and with this killing weapon, dealing with the spirit light race would be as easy as killing a group of chickens. As such, he wanted to use this opportunity to leave. Suddenly, the heavens and earth dimmed as clouds swirled, and a wild gale swept out. Countless trees swayed and sand and pebbles were blown into the air as all of the world's energy gathered. A massive and ancient will descended, causing the entire world to fall silent. In front of this will, everyone seemed as small as ants, and they looked at the sky in terror. Because of their terror, their bodies froze, and they could not move at all. The primogenitor statue must remain. Cayman and the spirit light world's legatees heard this voice in their minds, and they felt quite shocked because this voice was the world's will's voice. Following this, an unimaginable wave of power entered their bodies. Arc, howls tore through the 9 heavens and shook the surroundings as heaven-toppling auras exploded out. At that moment, the heavens and earth seemed to shatter, yin and yang reversed. Time and space became chaotic, and mountains and rivers collapsed. Almost everyone who didn't know what was going on had a single goal, which was to desperately run away. If they stayed here, they would definitely die. Even city lords would die like ants. This world's source energy was definitely a power that could destroy all life. Boom! Under the support of the world's power, Cayman shined with divine light and gave off an aura that seemed to be able to suppress an entire world. He looked like a god as he slashed out with his spear, and a massive wave of power ferociously shot toward Zhao Fu. The instant that the worlds will descended, Zhao Fu immediately felt that something was off. He did not hesitate and exploded out with his true power, causing the Qin Imperial Seal to continuously tremble as 9 dragons' roar sounded out. 9 black dragons that were 100 meters long came out of Zhao Fu's body. The Ghost World Pearl in front of his chest floated out, and the sealed 6 paths demon image's power was drawn out and sent into Zhao Fu's body. Immediately, a cold and eerie aura spread out like a ferocious ocean, inundating all of the aura of life. The entire world became deathly silent, as if it was going to become a ghost world. As a member of the death race, under this aura, Shi Zhao's face became incredibly pale, and her heart was filled with terror as her body trembled. Just what kind of terrifying power is this? A gray-black aura flame appeared around Zhao Fu's body, and his terrifying eyes gave off a shocking light as his aura became incredibly powerful. As Cayman's attack came, Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and the 9 black dragons circled around Zhao Fu, forming a massive protective barrier that blocked Cayman's attack. However, the other 5 legatees had also arrived, and they also gave off intense divine light and immense power. They were also supported by World's power. Mo Chi and the others hesitated as they looked at the people who had received World's power. Their power now surpassed theirs, so they hesitated as to whether or not they should continue participating. However, before they could think too much about it, their respective worlds sensed this and unhesitatingly gave them World's power. What shocked them was that their worlds had only given them a single mission, which was to kill Prince Sheen at all costs. They couldn't help but feel shocked. Just what sort of existence was Great Sheen's legatee for even the world's consciousness to want to kill him? This was something that had never happened before, and they all understood how serious this matter was. This was especially so for Sure Xiao and the white-haired young man. They now understood why Mo Chi had said that he did not even want the primogenitor statue and only wanted to kill Prince Sheen. He had even said that if they did not kill Prince Sheen, they would definitely regret it. Chapter 9:38. The 3 of them looked at each other and made up their minds. The 3 worlds, heavens and earth, trembled as they gathered world energy and sent it into their bodies, causing shocking auras to burst out from their bodies. Everyone in the 3 worlds looked up at the changes in the heavens and earth with serious expressions. Even though they did not know what was going on, this was definitely something that would shake the world. After all, world energy was gathering, which was enough to show what was going on. The ones who were the most terrified were the spirit light world. It was not just the world protector, but also the various legatees who had obtained world energy. Their might was enough to shake the heavens, and now the 3 world protectors also exploded out with world energy, causing even godly spirits to feel fear. Everyone in the spirit light world felt as if their souls were being battered by an ocean. Their bodies continuously trembled, and there was only terror in their hearts. No matter how ferocious the beasts in the spirit light world were, they could only crawl on the ground and whimper. The people who had wanted to steal the primogenitor statue had already run far away, and they looked behind them. That place was completely covered by haze, and it was quickly spreading, bringing with it an incredibly terrifying aura of destruction. From time to time, bolts of lightning would descend, and wild gales would wreak havoc. Trees would be uprooted and boulders would be carried into the sky, creating a tragic scene. Terrifying ripples continuously spread out, and sensing these ripples, everyone looked at each other. This was a world-destroying battle. There's a God. As the world protector of the spirit light world, Cayman was undoubtedly the most powerful person here. After all, this was his territory, and he could use even more world energy. He stood in the sky, giving off a boundless divine light. He was like a true god, and with a loud roar, countless strands of spirit chi madly gathered, forming a massive vortex in an instant, giving off a powerful sense of suppression. Zhao Fu was completely suppressed by the other 8 people. Just as he broke free from the corpse puppet's countless bandages, Cayman attacked. Countless rays of golden light shot out from the center of the vortex, and a golden pillar covered with divine runes gave off immense power as it blasted down from the sky. Zhao Fu was unable to dodge at all and was hit by the pillar of divine runes. Even though he had released a protective barrier in time, the pillar of divine runes contained terrifying power and smashed down towards the ground. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the divine rune pillar smashed into the ground like a meteor. A formless energy field instantly spread out, causing the ground in the surrounding 1,000 kilometers to collapse. The shock waves turned into wild gales that spread out, and dust filled the air. The pillar of divine runes turned into countless motes of light and dissipated, and Zhao Fu lay at the center of the crater, covered with blood. Even with the 6 paths demon images and Qin royal seal's full power, he would not be a match against the 9 of them. Because Great Qin's situation was quite tense, Zhao Fu had not brought the 8 aquatic beast kings. However, in front of the world's energy, they were not very effective, and the most important thing was that Zhao Fu could not use the world's energy yet. It was not that Zhao Fu did not want to use it, but that he could not. After all, the world's consciousness had to give him world energy, and if it did not give him world energy, Zhao Fu would not be able to use it. Back at the human world, Zhao Fu was the human world's world protector and the person that the human world's consciousness valued the most. Now that Zhao Fu was in such danger, the first thing it did was to send world energy into Zhao Fu's body to prevent Zhao Fu from being killed by the other world protectors. However, even ordinary people would be able to sense world energy, let alone legatee CG. At that moment, CG sensed that the human world's consciousness was incredibly anxious and wanted to send world energy into Zhao Fu's body. CG immediately understood that Emperor Qin's life was in danger, or else the world's consciousness would not be so anxious. CG happily explained this matter, and Su Yin and the other strategists smiled. They immediately suggested for CG to ally with the other legatees, as well as the legatees of the various kingdoms and dynasty legatees, to use their own fate to disrupt the world's consciousness. Even though they did not know what danger Emperor Qin was facing, if they tried to stop the world's consciousness, even if Emperor Qin did not die, he would be heavily injured. It would be best if they used someone else to kill Emperor Qin. This news quickly spread, and the various legatees agreed. After all, the greatest threat to the human world was Qin, and if Emperor Qin did not die, who would? If he died, they would have a chance. Moreover, this would not require a single soldier or effort, and it would only consume a bit of Emperor fate. Out of the 8 legatees in the human world, apart from Tina Pendragon, Jeffrey, and Masanori Hanno, who did not participate, the other 5 legatees all participated. The 5 of them were also legatees and were favored by the world. They had the ability to use the world's source energy, and with them interfering, as well as the dynasty legatees and dynasty legatees, the world's consciousness became quite chaotic. With CG in the lead, everyone exploded out with their fate, causing fate dragons to fly into the sky and give off powerful auras. This scene was quite grand, and it was not very terrifying, but it would definitely deal a fatal blow to Zhao Fu. After all, the world's consciousness was a collective consciousness, and as people with great fate and with the 5 legatees leading them, they could cause the world's consciousness to become chaotic. With them interfering, the world's consciousness fell into chaos, and the world's energy could not enter Zhao Fu's body. As such, Zhao Fu could not use his world's energy. Looking at the spirit light world, Zhao Fu was covered with blood, and his sword gave off a massive wave of deathly aura as it swept towards the 9 legatees. Even if he handed over the primogenitor statue, they would not let off Zhao Fu. After all, they had a greater goal, which was to kill Zhao Fu. Swish! An arrow gave off a sharp aura as it whistled toward Zhao Fu, giving off shocking sounds. It left a deep gash on the ground, and Zhao Fu raised his sword, knocking the arrow away as he retreated a few steps. With Zhao Fu's current strength, it was not easy for him to last so long in front of the 9 legatees. He was mainly relying on the 6 Paths Demon Image's power and the Marquis King Seal's power. Sky Tiger. As Zhao Fu blocked the arrow, the white-haired young man closed in and slashed out with terrifying power with his saber. A ferocious azure tiger appeared and gave off a shocking aura as it charged at Zhao Fu. Bang! 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 Zhao Fu's body was sent flying thousands of meters by the azure tiger, and he smashed through many boulders before finally stopping. He crashed to the ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Chapter 9:39. This person was most likely a world protector, but he did not have any world energy. Could it be that his world had abandoned him? However, this was a good thing for them. It was because he did not have world energy that they had been able to defeat him so easily. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to determine the victor. Seeing Zhao Fu on the ground and his aura incredibly weak, everyone did not hesitate because this was their best opportunity to kill him. Shi Xiao was the first to act, because she wanted the primogenitor statue. That thing was a great weapon against the spirit light race, and the corpse pall world was right next to the spirit light world. As such, she had to obtain the primogenitor statue, and even if she could not obtain it, she had to destroy it. After all, the statue was incredibly important to the spirit light race. Strands of bandages stretched out from the void. The front section of the bandages was stretched taut, and like metal, they spun into a long and thin drill. Xiao pushed out with her hand, and the countless drills formed from bandages shot out incredibly quickly, reaching Zhao Fu's body in an instant. If Zhao Fu was pierced by so many bandages, his body would become like a hornet's nest, and he would die without a doubt. Zhao Fu was barely able to stand up, and facing the countless incoming bandages, Zhao Fu gathered his last bit of strength and vigorously slashed out, causing a gray crescent to shatter all of the bandages. Cayman coldly laughed and sent terrifying power into his spear. The spear gave off a large amount of spear light and seemed to be made of light. At the same time, the aura it gave off was incredibly terrifying, and it could cause people's hairs to stand on end. Boom! The instant that Zhao Fu used his last bit of strength to block Zhao's attack, Cayman threw out his spear with all of his strength. The sky seemed to explode as a massive explosion sounded out. The spear gave off shocking power and was unstoppable. It instantly pierced through Zhao Fu's chest and nailed Zhao Fu to a mountain in the distance. Zhao Fu's head and arms powerlessly hung down, and blood dyed the mountain. The death disaster sword fell to the side, and his aura was gone. He was most likely dead. And, now that Zhao Fu was dead, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Now that he was dead, there would be no more surprises. After all, what could a dead person do? Xiao rushed towards Zhao Fu's corpse because she had always wanted the primogenitor statue. That thing was incredibly important to the spirit light race, and she had to obtain it no matter what. However, the spirit light people sensed Zhao's goal and immediately attacked. The white-haired young man also rushed towards Zhao Fu's corpse. It was evident that he also wanted the primogenitor statue. Emochi had promised that as long as he could kill Zhao Fu, he would not want the primogenitor statue. He was very trustworthy and did not try to steal it, but he did not want the spirit light people to obtain it. After all, the dark demon world was right next to it, and there had been a massive battle before. If they obtained it, the dark demon world would definitely suffer. Now, the spirit light race definitely had an advantage. They had a world protector and 5 legatees. The 5 legatees did not have the qualifications to participate in this battle, but with the world's energy, they still wanted to fight for it. Emochi immediately blocked the 3 spirit light people by himself, causing the 3 of them to feel furious. They immediately attacked without hesitation. The other 2 legatees looked at the white-haired young man in front of them and suddenly attacked. They wanted to use sneak attacks to force the white-haired young man back before taking the primogenitor statue. Otherwise, they would not be able to win against the white-haired young man. After all, the white-haired young man was the world protector, so the difference in strength was quite great. At the very front, Xiao and Cayman started to fight. Xiao wanted to grab the primogenitor statue and run, but Cayman suddenly punched out, sending a formless and terrifying fist towards Xiao. Xiao had no choice but to stop, and she slashed at the fist, splitting it in half. Cayman caught up and raised his hand, causing a large amount of golden light to gather, forming over 1,000 golden spears that gave off sharp spear auras as they aimed at Xiao. Xiao seriously waved her finger, causing gray-white bandages to stretch out from the air. Bang! 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 Cayman continuously shot out spears, and Xiao continuously shot out bandages. The 2 of them intensely clashed in the air, resulting in massive sounds. The power of the collisions turned into wild gales that swept out in all directions. After fighting for a while, Cayman still held a great advantage. After all, the spirit light world was his home ground, and he could use most of the world's energy. Before, everyone had been working together to kill Zhao Fu, But now that Zhao Fu had died, they started to fight amongst themselves for their own interests. I know what you're worried about. I can promise, and even swear that I won't invade the corpse pall world. There's no need to fight with me over the primogenitor statue, right? Cayman said to Shi Xiao after sensing that the battle would not end in a short period of time. Shi Xiao coldly harumphed. Only the strong held the right to speak. After the Spirit Light people obtained the primogenitor statue and became incredibly powerful, they would be able to destroy the corpse pall world. After all, they had the strength to destroy the corpse pall world. Promises and oaths were not binding at all, and if Cayman did not keep his promise, Shi Xiao would not be able to do anything. As such, Shi Xiao did not trust Cayman at all. I can also promise that I'll only keep the primogenitor statue and definitely won't use it. How about this? Shouldn't you give the primogenitor statue to me? Shi Xiao coldly laughed as she asked. Cayman did not reply and directly attacked. The primogenitor statue had the power to suppress their race, and if it fell into someone else's hands, their spirit light race would be finished. As such, even the world's consciousness wanted it to remain in the spirit light world. Bang! 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 Cayman raised his hand, and tens of thousands of orbs of light gave off intense light that covered the surrounding thousands of kilometers. They contained powerful holy light power, and ordinary undead would immediately die under this light. Cayman waved his hand, and the countless orbs of light shot toward Shi Xiao, wanting to use this move to suppress her. This move was indeed very harmful to Shi Xiao, as the corpse pall race was also a death race, so they were countered by holy light. Swish, 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 countless bandages shot out, forming a ring around Shi Xiao. Shi Xiao's body was also covered, forming a massive ball of cloth that defended her. The orbs of light slammed against the bandages, causing them to gradually dissipate. In the end, they were unable to stop the orbs of light, and Shi Xiao was sent flying back and coughed up a mouthful of gray blood. Cayman did not continue to act, as obtaining the primogenitor statue was more important. However, at that moment, the white-haired young man slashed away the two legatees blocking him and rushed toward Zhao Fu. He arrived before Zhao Fu's corpse before Cayman, and the white-haired young man smiled as he stretched out his hand toward Zhao Fu. Immediately, the white-haired young man's smile froze, and his body became icy cold, as if he could not move at all. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine as he felt an extreme sense of danger. One had to know that he had world energy supporting him, yet he still felt this sort of terrifying feeling. Chapter 940. Suddenly, the heavens and earth darkened as an extremely terrifying aura spread out from the sky. It was as if a heavenly river was pouring into the mortal world, instantly inundating the entire world. The spirit light world fell silent, and there was no sound at all. They looked up at the sky in terror, and all of them felt their bodies freeze. Their bodies felt incredibly cold, and they felt as if their hearts had been tightly gripped by a pair of large hands. They felt as if they were going to die, and they felt quite pained. By now, the sky had completely darkened, and there was not a trace of light at all. It was not just the sky, but even the ground seemed to have been devoured by a demonic mouth. It was completely dark, and even if there was something in front of them, they would not be able to see it clearly. The entire world had become a world of darkness. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the sky was torn apart, and countless traces of blood-red light shot out from the cracks. The terrifying aura reached its peak, and a massive blood-red star giving off an incredibly powerful might slowly descended. A murderous, evil, and calamitous aura swept through the world like thunder, causing everyone to sink into terror. Cayman and the others looked terrified as they looked up at the sky, not understanding what was going on. However, facing this star, they also felt a sense of terror. At that moment, boom, another shocking explosion sounded out as the sky was once again torn apart. Boundless golden light shined down on the mortal world, and an aura that seemed as if the heavens and earth would submit descended from the sky. Boom! A shocking explosion once again sounded out as a cold and eerie aura caused countless people's souls to tremble, and a boundless underworld intent suppressed the surroundings. A golden star and a gray star giving off shocking might, as well as boundless emperor's aura and underworld intent, simultaneously descended from the sky. The three stars gave off intense light, and the formless aura caused the entire spirit light world to feel quite oppressive. It was as if it was difficult to breathe, and a sense of despair and terror welled up within everyone's hearts. In the distance, countless people stared at the three stars in the sky. They were like three stars of destruction, standing tall in the void. They had no idea what was going on and why such a terrifying scene had appeared. They felt as if the world was about to be destroyed. Cayman and the others suddenly understood why the world's consciousness wanted to kill Zhao Fu. Looking at those two terrifying stars, they all knew why. They had sensed the terrifying auras from those two stars when they had descended. What they didn't expect was that Zhao Fu actually had three natal stars, and that blood-colored star was equally terrifying. It was the first time they knew the truth. Wait, isn't that Prince Qin dead? Why would such a change occur? Could it be? When Carmen and the others thought of this, they were shocked. They all turned to look at Zhao Fu. They saw that Zhao Fu, who seemed to be dead, was moving again. He slowly raised his head, and his terrifying eyes became even more terrifying. The white of his eyes turned completely black, and his pupils turned blood red like two blood-red gems. His eyes were completely lifeless and did not contain a trace of emotion. There was only a sense of annihilation. The white-haired young man, who was closest to Zhao Fu, felt as if he had fallen into icy water, and a bone-chilling coldness flowed out of his heart. The white-haired young man looked incredibly shocked, but he did not do anything. Bang! A muffled sound rang out as the white-haired young man was hit by a formless energy and flew back thousands of meters, crashing into a large mountain. The white-haired young man coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and his face was incredibly pale. If it wasn't for the world's energy protecting him, he would have died. This shocking change caused everyone present to feel a chill in their hearts. Zhao Fu, who was pinned to the mountain, once again moved. He gripped the silver spear in his chest and pulled it out of his body. At that moment, those terrifying eyes turned towards Cayman, causing his hairs to stand on end. He felt as if he was being stared at by a peerlessly ferocious beast, and an incredibly dangerous aura flowed out of his heart. He immediately unleashed a golden barrier with divine runes to defend. However, at that moment, Zhao Fu threw out his silver spear. The silver spear was like a bolt of silver lightning that instantly pierced through Cayman's body, nailing him to the ground 1,000 meters away. His barrier, which was strengthened by his world's energy, was unable to protect him at all. Cayman's chest was also pierced, and he was nailed to the ground. A large crater appeared in the ground, but Cayman was not dead. His aura was quite weak, and blood continuously flowed out of his mouth, making him look incredibly wretched. Those terrifying blood-red eyes did not contain a trace of emotion as they once again turned toward Shao. Shao felt a chill in her heart, and she did not hesitate to turn and run. However, in the next moment, she felt a shocking aura appear beside her. Zhao's expression fell, and bandages shot out, forming a defensive barrier in front of her. However, in the next moment, a sharp claw giving off destructive power instantly tore apart the barrier, causing countless bandages to scatter. A sharp claw giving off terrifying power grabbed towards Shao. Zhao's pupils constricted, and a rune appeared on her forehead. The sharp claw pierced through Zhao's chest like a bolt of lightning. But in the next moment, Zhao's body turned into countless traces of black matter and disappeared. Her body suddenly appeared hundreds of meters away, and in that moment, Zhao only had a single thought, which was to run. She did not even care about the primogenitor statue, as she would definitely be killed if she stayed. Even with the world's energy, it was useless. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside her, and Zhao looked incredibly shocked. Zhao Fu, who had been a few hundred meters away, instantly appeared in front of Shi Xiao and grabbed her head. Shi Xiao felt as if she had been grabbed by an iron claw, and before she could do anything, she was smashed towards the ground. Boom! Shi Xiao's body was like a heavy object falling from the sky, heavily smashing into the ground. A 1,000-meter-wide crater appeared, and dust billowed into the air. No one knew if Shi Xiao was dead or alive. Arg! Arg! Two pained cries sounded out as the two legatees, who had been restraining the white-haired young man, were torn apart by Zhao Fu, causing blood and broken pieces to fall to the ground. Only Mo Qi and the three legatees were left, and they stared at this scene in shock. The three legatees chose to run for their lives, while Mo Qi stopped because he could not escape. Those terrifying eyes had already locked onto him. Mo Qi gripped his sword with both hands and stared at Zhao Fu. He felt incredibly nervous, and a few drops of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would completely lose control. His power was so terrifying that not even the world's energy was enough. Chapter 941. Zhao Fu's body suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of Mo Qi in just a second. Mo Qi exploded out with a terrifying aura, and massive amounts of demonic energy entered his demon sword, causing it to give off a shocking sword light as it slashed toward Zhao Fu. The terrifying sword light seemed to be able to tear apart the sky. Bang! Facing such a terrifying attack, Zhao Fu just waved his hand, and a massive wave of energy sent Mo Qi's sword flying, causing Mo Qi to feel quite startled. However, Zhao Fu spun and kicked Mo Qi flying back. Mo Qi crashed to the ground, his ribs shattered. Now, only Zhao Fu stood in the air, giving off a terrifying aura that seemed to be able to harm the heavens and earth. Everyone else was either dead or lying on the ground. Their auras were quite weak, and they looked heavily injured. However, Zhao Fu did not plan on letting them off. Shing, 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 sword hums sounded out as countless blood-red motes of light gathered in front of Zhao Fu, forming countless blood-red swords of light. They gave off a massive sword aura that seemed to be able to slash apart the heavens, and a massive sword chi storm spread out. Just as it seemed that Cayman and the others were going to die, the situation changed. Boom! From the east, an incredibly massive aura appeared in the sky, giving off heaven-shaking power. It was a massive golden lion that gave off an intense golden light, making it difficult for people to open their eyes. It was like a golden sun. Boom! An unimaginably terrifying power exploded out from the west, causing the heavens and earth to become berserk. Bolts of black lightning flashed in the sky, creating a terrifying scene. A massive lightning beast covered with scales and looking like a Qilin appeared within the boundless lightning. Boom! From the south, a massive might suddenly descended, causing everyone to feel terror. Time and space seemed to be locked down, and a massive blue eyeball appeared. Its gaze was incredibly terrifying and seemed to be able to cause the heavens and earth to collapse. Boom! A final explosion sounded out from the north as the sky was covered by violet light. A human-headed, bird-bodied monster appeared. It had the head of a woman and the body of a crane. It was covered with violet feathers and gave off an incredibly powerful aura. At that moment, the Spirit Light World's four guardian beasts received orders from the world's consciousness and gave off terrifying auras as they descended. Just their auras could make godly spirits tremble in fear. The four guardian beasts descended at the same time, completely disrupting the weather. Everyone in the Spirit Light World looked at the ripples in the distance in shock. This power was simply too terrifying, and they felt like ants that were about to die. The four guardian beasts gave off heaven-shaking auras as they stood in the sky, each taking up their own world. They were like supreme godly spirits looking down on Zhao Fu, easily deciding whether Zhao Fu lived or died. They indeed had great power, as they were existences that protected worlds. You've awakened 3 terrifying stars with your extraordinary body. You should not have come here, nor should you have fought for the primogenitor statue of the spirit light world. Now, you will die here. The golden lion looked at Zhao Fu with its golden eyes and gave off a loud and clear voice that shook the surroundings. Its voice contained a trace of pity and coldness. For such a person to appear in a low-grade world, it's incredibly rare. It's a pity that he doesn't belong to our spirit light world, or else our spirit light world would welcome a new age and reach the peak. This person must die. He can't be allowed to live. The Qilin-like lightning beast looked at Zhao Fu with its black eyes and gave off the coarse voice of a young man. It was filled with killing intent and seemed determined to kill Zhao Fu. This person came from the neighboring second world. If such a person is allowed to live, our spirit light world will be destroyed by him sooner or later, and our powerful spirit light race will be enslaved by him. As such, this person must die, and his soul must be destroyed. The massive eye in the south gave off a ferocious and eerie gaze as it looked at Zhao Fu. Even though it did not have a mouth, it still gave off a sharp voice. Let's not waste any more words. This person has an incredibly pure sovereign bloodline, so quickly kill him. It's fine if we don't leave his soul behind to prevent any future troubles. Once this sort of person loses control, they'll become incredibly pure and innocent, but we must leave his corpse behind. That's an incredibly rare treasure, and if the four of us devour his corpse, we'll become even more powerful. The humanoid, bird-bodied monster in the north had a female head and licked its lips. It was incredibly impatient with Zhao Fu's corpse, and its voice was filled with viciousness and cruelty. After speaking, the bird-bodied monster gave a piercing laugh and ignored the other three guardian beasts. It flapped its wings, bringing with it a gust of wind as it flew toward Zhao Fu. It was incredibly fast like a primordial beast, and its terrifying aura was incredibly shocking and unstoppable. Now, Zhao Fu's eyes were empty, and his consciousness was completely lost. He had completely lost control of his power, and facing the four powerful guardian beasts, not only did he not feel any fear, but he even gave a crazed and twisted smile. Facing the strange bird's ferocious attack, Zhao Fu directly rushed towards it. The Chaos Imperial Star in the sky gave off a blood-red light, and the blood-red sword that he had used to kill Carmen and the others instantly became dozens of times brighter. The sky was filled with blood-red swords of light, and they gave off a heaven-piercing aura as they shot towards the strange bird along with Zhao Fu. Boom! With a deafening explosion, the two powerful forces collided with each other, resulting in a huge explosion. Gales and sword lights shot out in all directions. The terrifying shockwave produced by the collision instantly razed everything within a radius of 10,000 miles to the ground. Not a single blade of grass was left. Not a single life was left. Ark! A pained cry sounded out from the strange bird. Its massive body was sent flying by Zhao Fu, and its body was covered with wounds from a sword. Countless traces of violet blood flowed out of the wounds, making it look quite wretched. The other three guardian beasts had never thought that the strange bird would lose in a head-on clash, and they did not hesitate. The golden lion was the first to act, giving a heaven-shaking roar as it opened its mouth and spat out a massive golden beam of light that seemed to be able to destroy all things. Space trembled because of this beam of light, and it shot toward Zhao Fu. Ha! Zhao Fu madly laughed as a wave of demonic intent flowed out from the depths of his soul. It was the fused demon god's nature. Boundless demonic chi flowed out from Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu's aura reached its peak, causing space to twist. Zhao Fu grabbed at the air, and countless traces of demonic chi condensed into a demonic sword. He then turned into a black ray of light and shot towards the golden beam of light. Boom! Chapter 942. Demon's Son. Zhao Fu roared as he raised his demon sword, and his eyes gave off an intense blood-red light. Looking at the massive golden lion in front of him, the smile on his face became even more twisted. A wave of demonic chi rushed into the sky, and all of the demonic chi madly gathered, forming a sun that gave off a demonic light. It gave off a heaven-shaking demonic might and seemed to cause the world to tremble in fear. At the same time, Zhao Fu's sword slashed down. The golden lion's expression fell, and it tried to dodge, but a black sword light that seemed to be able to tear apart the heavens sent the golden lion flying back tens of thousands of meters before heavily crashing to the ground. A large crater was smashed open in the ground, and the ground continuously trembled as leaves fell. A long gash appeared on its chest, from which large amounts of golden blood flowed out. The golden lion looked incredibly pained, and this injury was not light at all. Roar! Seeing that its two guardian beasts were not a match for Zhao Fu, the thunder beast furiously roared, and its body exploded out with countless bolts of black lightning. The entire sky seemed to explode, and it gave off a world-destroying aura as it ferociously rushed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not even look back as he stretched out a hand towards the charging thunder beast. The celestial emperor star in the sky exploded out with a powerful emperor's aura, and boundless golden light covered the world. Zhao Fu's left eye's 5 pupils quickly spun. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of chains could be heard throughout the heavens and earth as golden chains shot out from the sky, the ground, and the surroundings. It was impossible to tell how many there were, perhaps millions or even tens of millions. The Thunder Beast was given a big fright, and it tried to dodge the countless golden chains. However, there were simply too many of them, and its body was simply too big. It was unable to dodge at all, and its body was bound up by the countless golden chains. Following this, the countless golden chains were bound up. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and grabbed, and the countless golden chains binding the Thunder Beast tightened. Roar! The lightning beast felt as if its bones were about to break. It let out a pained and furious roar and released even more black lightning as it struggled madly. On the other side of Zhao Fu, the massive blue eye coldly stared at Zhao Fu. Its pupils constricted and a massive blue aura flame burst forth, which continuously condensed into a massive cyclops. Roar! The cyclops giant gave off a terrifying aura and roared towards the sky, causing the sky to crack. Following this, the cyclops giant leapt into the air and clenched its fists as it descended toward Zhao Fu. At that moment, Zhao Fu raised his head and looked at the giant falling from the sky with his terrifying eyes. He cruelly smiled, and the gray moon-like star in the sky gave off boundless, ghostly chi. The 6 blood-red dots in Zhao Fu's right eye started to spin. Suddenly, 6 massive gray orbs appeared beside the falling Cyclops giant. These orbs were condensed from ghostly chi and gave off an incredibly cold and eerie aura, making people feel quite dangerous. Facing the 6 gray orbs that suddenly appeared beside it, the Cyclops felt quite startled. However, it sensed the danger and its expression fell. Just as it was about to dodge, the 6 gray orbs suddenly exploded, sending out a destructive explosion. From a distance, it looked as if a massive gray orb of light had appeared in the sky, following which a shockwave rippled out. Countless mountains were shaved off, countless trees were uprooted, and massive boulders were blasted apart by this power. After the shockwave rippled out, the Cyclops giant collapsed, and the blue flames disappeared, leaving behind the scarred blue eyeball. How can this person be so powerful? Even the 4 of us aren't a match for him. What should we do? The strange bird asked loudly with an unsightly expression. The 4 of them were the guardian beasts of the spirit light world, yet they had been defeated one after another. Their strength was truly terrifying. No wonder the world's consciousness wanted to kill him. Leaving such a person alive would bring about endless trouble in the future. The 4 guardian beasts now understood. The spirit light world is our territory, and everything here is related to us. We can also use the spirit light world's power to the greatest extent, so we can only use that move. We'll use the entire spirit light world as a formation, all living things as a line, and the 4 of us as the center of the formation to forcefully suppress this person. The golden lion roared. After suffering from Zhao Fu's attack, he clearly understood how powerful Zhao Fu was. If they did not do this, they definitely would not be a match for this person, and the spirit light world might even be destroyed by him. The other 3 guardian beasts did not hesitate and followed the Golden Lion's method. After all, they had suffered greatly at Zhao Fu's hands. Wu, Divine Gold Lion, in the name of the spirit light world's guardian beast, all living things in the spirit light world listen to my commands. Wu, Dark Lightning Divine Beast, in the name of the spirit light world's guardian beast, all living things in the spirit light world listen to my commands. Wu, the Heavenly Sage Eyes, in the name of the spirit light world's guardian beasts, commands all living things in the spirit light world. Wu, the Mystic Purple Devil Bird, in the name of the spirit light world's guardian beasts, commands all living things in the spirit light world. The 4 guardian beasts raised their heads to the sky and roared, shaking the heavens. This time, they exploded out with their full power. Ferocious aura flames flowed out of their bodies, and an even more shocking power flowed out of their bodies. The Dark Lightning Divine Beast, which had been bound by Zhao Fu, broke free from the countless chains, and the 4 guardian beasts rushed into the sky. A terrifying aura flame surrounded Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu instinctively sensed the danger, and just as he was about to act, a massive rainbow-colored ring of light formed around the 4 guardian beasts, and Zhao Fu, who was at the center, felt a powerful force locking him down. However, this energy was not very strong, and Zhao Fu vigorously struggled. If he had some time, he would have been able to break free. However, the 4 guardian beasts evidently did not give Zhao Fu such an opportunity. After the ring of light formed, a massive formless energy instantly spread throughout the entire world. Whether it was the mountains, rivers, grass, or trees, they all resonated with each other, giving off traces of aura and linking together. A massive heaven and earth magic formation gradually appeared. It was a shocking formation formed by the entire spirit light world. Heaven and earth spirits and the power of all creatures madly gathered at the center of the formation, and Zhao Fu immediately felt a massive power locking him down. This power was more than 100 times stronger than before, making it so that he could not move at all. This power was incredibly powerful. Seeing that Zhao Fu was bound and could not move at all, the 4 guardian beasts smiled and felt much more at ease. Should we seal him in the depths of the spirit light world, or should we use the magic formation to kill him? The Golden Lion asked the other 3 guardian beasts. Of course we should kill him. How could we dare to keep such a person alive? If we seal him now and break the seal in the future, what will we do? He's simply too much of a threat, the lightning beast replied, filled with killing intent. The other 2 guardian beasts nodded. They definitely could not let Zhao Fu live. Boom! The 4 guardian beasts made their decision to kill Zhao Fu. They activated the magic formation, and a wave of energy blasted towards Zhao Fu at the center of the formation. Pooh! Zhao Fu coughed up a mouthful of gray-black blood, and his clothes were reduced to dust, revealing Zhao Fu's true appearance, as well as his slender upper body. Looking at Zhao Fu's appearance, the 4 guardian beasts felt quite surprised. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would be so young and handsome. That noble and domineering emperor's aura was quite enchanting. But this did not change the 4 guardian beasts' decision to kill Zhao Fu. They continued to activate the heaven and earth magic formation. The heaven and earth gave off a mighty power as it slowly spun. At the center of the formation, Zhao Fu felt as if he was being grinded by a massive millstone, and it was incredibly painful. Gray-black blood leaked out of Zhao Fu's upper body. Arc! Zhao Fu howled in pain as more and more blood flowed out of his body. Under the power of the heaven and earth formation, Zhao Fu's bones started to twist and fall out of place, making him look quite wretched. The 4 guardian beasts did not feel any pity and instead looked delighted. The lightning beast called out, "We're just a step away from killing him. Let's activate the heaven and earth formation." Boom! The four guardian beasts exploded out with terrifying power, activating the heaven and earth formation. Affected by this power, the slowly spinning heaven and earth formation quickly spun, and all of the power in the world ferociously gathered before once again blasting towards Zhao Fu. Ark, a mournful howl tore through the sky and shook the surroundings. Zhao Fu's body was locked in the air by the formation, and he roared in pain. He felt as if his body and soul were being grinded apart, and this pain stabbed into the depths of Zhao Fu's heart like a sharp knife. At that moment, something seemed to shatter as the three massive stars in the sky exploded out with a heaven-toppling aura. Countless rays of light exploded out, destroying all things, causing the weather to change and clouds to become chaotic as all creatures felt terror. Boom! Three pillars of light shot out from the three stars and simultaneously landed on Zhao Fu's body. The four guardian beasts had never thought that this attack would not be able to kill Zhao Fu, and they once again exploded out with terrifying power as they desperately activated the heaven and earth formation, vowing to kill Zhao Fu. The massive heaven and earth formation quickly spun, and it was impossible to see it with the naked eye. An even more ferocious power blasted toward Zhao Fu like an ocean. Ark, within the pillar of light, Zhao Fu raised his head to the sky and howled even more painfully as black blood continuously flowed out of his eyes. In that moment, Zhao Fu's pupils seemed to split open from the center. The heavens and earth suddenly fell silent, as if everything in the world had been locked down by some sort of power. The four guardian beasts were horrified to find that they were unable to activate the heaven and earth formation, and what made them even more terrified was that they could sense an unavoidable danger descending. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a terrifying, world-destroying power spread out with Zhao Fu at the center. In just an instant, the heavens and earth started to collapse. Space and time became chaotic, and laws were shattered. Everything was destroyed, and all life was extinguished. Chapter 943. The ground continuously trembled, and countless cracks appeared in the sky. A berserk gale blew and lightning flashed, causing the heavens and earth to darken. Countless creatures instinctively wanted to run for their lives, but they found that there was nowhere to run. They could only howl in terror and despair, looking incredibly pitiful. At this moment, the source energy of all things in the world gathered in one place, and all of the Feybright players were forced to retreat. The boundless spirit light source energy continuously gathered, forming a hazy person. This person's appearance was indistinguishable, and it was impossible to tell if he was male or female, old or young. He gave off an incredibly powerful might and an aura that could cause all creatures to kneel. He was as powerful as a world. This was the manifestation of the world's consciousness, and the hazy person was the spirit light world's consciousness. It would only appear when the world was in danger, and now, Zhao Fu's power that could destroy everything forced the world's consciousness to personally descend. Seeing Zhao Fu continuously howl within the pillar of light and the scene of the heavens and earth collapsing, the world's consciousness did not hesitate to act. Boom, boom, boom. Shocking explosions continuously sounded throughout the entire world as a terrifying battle erupted, causing the heavens and earth to fall into darkness. Many players who had left the Heaven Awakened world looked incredibly terrified. Even though they had left the Heaven Awakened world, that feeling of terror and despair still lingered in their hearts, causing their bodies to feel a chill. A few days later, they were finally able to enter the Heaven Awakened world. The spirit light world was in quite a wretched state. Countless trees had been destroyed and rocks were everywhere, and there was still a terrifying aura lingering on the ground. Some people could not help but look towards the center of the battle, and the scene was incredibly shocking and terrifying. The sky was covered by a thick layer of dark clouds, and 1,000 or so regions had been turned into scorched earth. There were traces of black aura, and there were no signs of life. Some places had collapsed into deep chasms, some had cracked open into canyons, and some had lava flowing out. It was a scene of doomsday. It could be imagined just how terrifying that battle had been. It had destroyed everything, and no one had been able to survive, dying like ants in despair. Luckily, the spirit light world had won in the end, or else the consequences would have been quite severe. However, that person had been able to fight against the spirit light world's consciousness. Just what kind of existence was he? Following this, Legatee Chin's name resounded throughout the entire spirit light world. It was the first time everyone had heard of this name, and they felt a chill towards his power. His power evidently surpassed anything that the spirit light people knew. Even though he had been forced back by the world's consciousness, he had heavily injured the four guardian beasts. As a world protector, Cayman had run away quickly, or else he would have long since died. However, he was also heavily injured, and the other world protectors were the same. Most importantly, that person caused countless creatures in the thousands of regions to die. It was impossible to count just how many people there were, and countless cries of despair could be heard in that region. The most important person in this battle had already returned to Qin, and this was mainly because of the Golden Dragon. Without it, Zhao Fu's consciousness would have completely fallen, and he would have stayed there to fight to the death with the spirit light world's consciousness. After returning to Qin, Zhao Fu was covered with wounds, and his aura was quite weak. He was on the verge of death. Luckily, he had already given the revival pill to the Imperial Physician Pavilion, and Zhao Fu ordered people to use the revival pill, causing Zhao Fu's injuries to quickly recover. Moreover, the Emperor Phoenix statue sent a large amount of Phoenix Qi into Zhao Fu's body, causing its recovery effects to be quite powerful. It was only slightly weaker than the revival pill. Finally, with the Flower Fairy's healing, Zhao Fu regained consciousness in just a few days, and his aura was quite weak. Now, Zhao Fu had returned to his original appearance, and his eyes had also returned to their original state. His cracked eyes had also closed. Zhao Fu could not remember what had happened, because when his body had been pinned to the cliff, Zhao Fu's consciousness had been dragged into boundless darkness. His body had been completely controlled by his bloodline, and that state was dominated by the Death Race's bloodline. That was why Zhao Fu had lost all of his life force. After all, the Death Race was a creature of the undead, and Zhao Fu's Death Race bloodline was undoubtedly one of the top-tier bloodlines within the Death Race. Because he was dominated by the Death Race's bloodline, his three fate stars sensed immense danger and broke free from Zhao Fu's control, exploding out with immense power. The demon god's nature that had fused into his soul started to affect his body, causing this power to become pure destructive power. Now, Zhao Fu leaned against the bed and ate some medicinal pills as he listened to the Golden Dragon describe what had happened. The final state, in which all of Zhao Fu's eyes had cracked open, was because Zhao Fu had broken through the life restriction and entered the Daoai state. All living creatures had life restrictions. For example, it determined a person's lifespan, the innate attributes of different races, and how good or bad one's innate talent was. These were all life restrictions, because it determined how long one could live and how long one's lifespan was. It determined what innate talent one had. Even though these things could be changed through external forces, such as eating medicinal pills that increased one's lifespan or spirit medicines that increased one's talent, these were only changes and could not be broken through. Now that Zhao Fu had completely broken through the life restriction, his future evolution would no longer be restricted. He could become a god or a demon, and he might not even be able to maintain his human form and become a monster. After all, once the life restriction was broken, everything would lose its restrictions, and the direction of his evolution would be completely unknown. There was also the Daoai state. The Daoai gave him the power that was closest to the Dao after breaking through the life restriction. It gave him the power to see through the source of all matter, and all illusions were useless against the Daoai. The Daoai was given after breaking through the life restriction, so this state was called the Daoai state. This time, Zhao Fu had never thought that such a thing would happen. What made Zhao Fu the most angry was that he could not use the world's energy and had been completely suppressed by the 9 of them. Otherwise, with the world's energy, even if Zhao Fu could not defeat the 9 of them, he would be able to escape. The reason why he could not use the world's consciousness had been reported to Zhao Fu by Flower Moon's people, and they had even made a list of people. It could be said that he had been heavily injured because of the people on the list. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed. He had to kill these people in the future, and he would not accept even if they surrendered. Chapter 944. The primogenitor statue was an incredibly important item to the spirit light race, and it was incredibly powerful, surpassing what people could imagine. It indeed had the ability to help the spirit light race reach glory, and it was the greatest help to them. This showed just how important it was. The primogenitor statue was a supreme treasure that had been nurtured by the spirit light world, and it was formed by the primogenitor of the spirit light race. It was said that the primogenitor of the spirit light race could create all things in the world, and it was on the same level as the god of creation. For example, China had legends of Pangu splitting the heavens and earth, and the West had legends of God creating the human world. The primogenitor was in existence on the same level as them, which showed just how powerful the primogenitor was. However, compared to China's legends, the primogenitor of the spirit light world truly existed. His body had been turned into a statue, and it had become a supreme treasure of the spirit light race. The first effect was that it could greatly increase the spirit light race's power. This was bloodline power, which meant that the primogenitor statue could increase one's bloodline power and innate attributes, making one's overall power more powerful. Most importantly, the primogenitor statue did not have any restrictions, which meant that it did not increase the power of a few 100 million or even billions of people, but the power of the entire spirit light race. In other words, this statue could increase the power of an entire world, which was something very rare. Moreover, the increase in power was very great, allowing the spirit light race's innate attributes to reach stage 0 to 9. In other words, even if they did not do anything, they would be at stage 0 to 9 from birth, and they would not have to bitterly cultivate like others. As such, the primogenitor statue was incredibly important to the spirit light race. With it, the spirit light race's power would surpass that of the previous world. Apart from the first ability, there was also a second ability, which was to forcefully gather heaven and earth spirit chi. It did not gather its own world spirit chi, but forcefully absorb other worlds' spirit chi into its own world. This way, the spirit light world spirit chi would become more and more abundant, and their cultivation speed would become faster and faster. However, the surrounding spirit chi would become scarcer and scarcer, and their cultivation speed would become slower and slower. There was also a third ability. Because the primogenitor statue controlled creation power, its power was naturally quite terrifying. The third ability was that it had a primogenitor domain, and spirit light people who cultivated within it could comprehend high-grade power. The fourth ability was the primogenitor statue's terrifying power. Even though the spirit light world's primogenitor had died and become a statue, it was still more powerful than the 8 aquatic beast kings combined. If it unleashed all of its power, it would be a world-destroying war machine. With these 4 abilities, if the spirit light race obtained them, they would definitely walk towards glory, making others feel incredibly envious of them. However, the primogenitor statue could only be used by the spirit light race. In other words, even though Zhao Fu had obtained the primogenitor statue, he could not use it, which made him feel quite pained. The only thing he could use was to suppress the spirit light race. The primogenitor statue was the manifestation of the spirit light race's primogenitor, and it was incredibly important to the spirit light race. Its attributes could give the spirit light race many benefits, but in the hands of others, it could also be used to suppress the spirit light race. For example, Zhao Fu had obtained a reversal talisman that could change an attribute to the opposite attribute. If he changed the primogenitor statue's attributes, it would become a killing weapon that countered the spirit light race. It was an unavoidable suppression as it came from the bloodline. If Zhao Fu changed the primogenitor statue's attributes and released it on the battlefield, all of the spirit light people's power would be reduced by 60%. In other words, he would have stage 1 strength, but when facing the primogenitor statue, his power would be reduced by 60%, and he would only have stage 0 to 4 strength. A stage 0 to 4 soldier would be able to easily kill 10 or so stage 1 soldiers, and killing dozens of stage 1 soldiers would not be a problem. If their power was reduced by so much, how great would their advantage be? Qin could fight 40 to 50 of them by himself, and if he sent out 1 billion soldiers, they would need 40 to 50 billion soldiers to defend. With the primogenitor statue, it would be quite easy to deal with the spirit light race. As such, the world's consciousness did not want this item to fall into the hands of others, as it countered the spirit light race too much. With this item, it would be incredibly easy for Qin to destroy the spirit light world in the future. Moreover, the primogenitor statue could not be used by others and could only be used to suppress the spirit light race. However, Qin had the heaven and earth refining formation, so perhaps he could refine it and add the 4 attributes of Qin. That way, Qin would be able to replace the spirit light race and reach glory. This idea was quite tempting and even exciting, as the 4 attributes were quite powerful. The golden dragon was quite knowledgeable about this, and Zhao Fu immediately asked him what he should do. It was evident that ordinary refining methods would not work. The golden dragon did not hide anything and explained everything to Zhao Fu in detail. After listening, Zhao Fu found that even though he could refine the primogenitor statue, it was incredibly difficult, much more difficult than refining a nation armament. This was because a nation armament was a condensation of fate, and fate could change and fuse. For example, if a nation devoured another nation to form a new nation, the fate would fuse together. If a nation split into 2 nations, they would become 2 different fates. As such, by using another nation's fate and Qin's fate, one could refine another nation's nation armament for Qin's use. However, the primogenitor statue was different, as the core of the primogenitor statue was the bloodline. Zhao Fu did not have the spirit light race's bloodline, so he naturally could not use it. The golden dragon's method was to change the bloodline and fuse Qin's bloodline into it. This process was incredibly difficult, as the primogenitor statue contained the primogenitor bloodline. If he wanted to replace it, he would have to gather all of Qin's bloodlines and fuse them into a new bloodline. Only then would it be able to replace the primogenitor bloodline. Moreover, this method had many uncertainties. Perhaps the primogenitor statue would be damaged, lose its stats, or become even more powerful. The most important thing was time. Qin had 5 billion or so people, so it would take 600 years to completely refine the primogenitor statue. This was because the primogenitor statue had been nourished by the primogenitor bloodline for thousands of years, and it could not be changed in a short period of time. There was a way to speed up this process, which was to gather more people. With more people, they would be able to gather more bloodlines, and the bloodline would become more powerful. That way, the speed at which the primogenitor statue could replace the primogenitor bloodline would be faster. Otherwise, if they waited 600 years, Zhao Fu did not know if he would be able to live that long, so he could only leave it to his descendants. Chapter 945. Zhao Fu first ordered people to dig a massive, rectangular blood pond that was at least 100,000 meters long. This was because the primogenitor statue was 100,000 meters tall, and it was 10 times larger than the aquatic beast king. After digging the blood pond, it was time to collect all of Qin Kingdom's bloodlines, regardless of race or status. Because there were so many people, this was not something that could be done in a short period of time. During this period of time, Zhao Fu took the primogenitor statue to the heaven and earth refining formation. What Zhao Fu needed to do was leave a blood law seal on the primogenitor statue. This was to use Zhao Fu's blood to carve a blood law seal on the primogenitor statue. The countless bloodlines in Qin Kingdom would use Zhao Fu's bloodline as the core, forming a new bloodline. The primogenitor statue would be replaced by this bloodline, and Zhao Fu would naturally be able to control the primogenitor statue. Moreover, the benefit of carving a blood law seal was that he could directly release the primogenitor statue into the blood pond. As long as he poured out some blood every day, the blood pond would not decrease, and the blood law seal would be able to refine the primogenitor statue. That way, he would not have to keep using up the heaven and earth refining formation, as there were many things that the heaven and earth refining formation needed to do. Zhao Fu placed the palm-sized primogenitor statue on the heaven and earth refining formation and activated it. An intense light spread out as a formless energy covered the primogenitor statue in the air. Zhao Fu cut open his palm and forced out the purest essence blood in his body. Zhao Fu's blood became blood red with a trace of gold, and under Zhao Fu's control, it flew towards the magic formation. As the blood entered the magic formation, it turned into a blood-red mist and fused into the magic formation. The heaven and earth refining formation on the altar started to spin and give off boundless blood-red light. The primogenitor statue in the air was covered by a blood-red light, and the blood-red light started to seep into the statue. The primogenitor statue gradually gave off a blood-red light, and a blood-red magic formation similar to the heaven and earth refining formation appeared on the primogenitor statue's forehead. With the appearance of this blood-red magic design, the heaven and earth magic design slowly stopped operating. The matter of drawing the blood magic seal was finally completed. Now, all that was left was to wait. A few days later, the massive blood pool was dug up and the blood was poured into it. Zhao Fu returned the primogenitor statue to its original size and placed it in the blood pool, completing the refining of the primogenitor statue. Right now, the most important thing was to obtain more people so that they could refine the primogenitors faster. Zhao Fu did not want to wait 600 years. 15 days had passed in the real world, meaning that the real world would be devoured in 15 days. During this time, Zhao Fu continued to order Qin soldiers to clean up the area and build the Great Wall. Originally, Zhao Fu did not want to attack the other areas, because the situation in the north had not stabilized and the defensive measures had not been completed. Attacking the other areas would be unwise, but now, the situation had changed. Within a hidden room, Zhao Fu sat on a chair while a man with a Japanese accent knelt below him. He was very respectful and humble, and he told Zhao Fu about some things. Zhao Fu listened attentively and thought to himself. By now, Qin was clearing out the region and stabilizing the situation in the north. The other areas of the Midland continent were also building defensive measures, and in order to defend themselves, no one underestimated Qin at all. There were 4 defensive measures in total. The first was an isolation formation, which was a void zone that was 10 regions wide. Without using any other methods, it would take an army at least a year to travel through. The second was a spatial restriction formation, which prevented anything that could fly from appearing in the sky. The various countries had invested a lot in this area, and even tens of thousands of city lords would not be able to break through the spatial restriction formation in order to prevent Qin from attacking them. The third was an underground formation. After learning their lesson from last time, the various factions had also taken precautions to prevent Qin from digging tunnels and silently entering their territory. The fourth was the Great Wall, where the final battle would take place. They had also set up countless restrictions here, as well as defensive measures. If the first 3 defensive measures failed, they would have to fight with Qin in the final battle, and victory would be decided in that battle. The defenses in the sky, on the ground, underground, and at the Great Wall were incredibly comprehensive, and they gave off an indestructible aura that could deal with Qin's ferocious attacks. However, this time, they were going to lose because of the will of the people. This was the purpose of this meeting. The person who spoke was a Japanese ambassador who represented 70% of the top-tier factions in Japan. They were willing to submit to Qin and secretly open a path for Qin to unify the eastern side of the Midland continent. Why are you doing this? What do you want? Zhao Fu sat on a chair and asked in a dignified voice. Everything had a purpose, and 70% of the top-tier factions in Japan were willing to submit to Qin. This was not a small matter, and they were not stupid. They definitely had their own motives. The ambassador knelt on the ground and lowered his head as he replied respectfully and sincerely, "Your Majesty Qin, no one can stop you from unifying the world." Now, no one can stop you from unifying the world, and the world will be yours sooner or later. We're willing to submit to Great Qin because we're forsaking the darkness for the light, and we're doing this out of consideration for Japan's commoners. We're looking for a wise ruler, and under your leadership, the commoners will be able to live in peace and happiness. Hearing this ambassador's words, Zhao Fu could not help but lightly laugh. Before, those people had said that Qin was evil and belonged to the dark side, and they had said that he was cruel, cold-blooded, and licentious. Now, they were saying that he had abandoned the dark side for the light, and he had become a wise ruler who was loved and respected by the people. However, Zhao Fu also understood the Japanese people's characters. Because of the lack of resources, the concept of survival of the fittest was deeply implanted in their minds. They treated those who were weaker than them as ferocious and perverted people, and those who were stronger than them were loyal dogs who liked to submit to the strong. Now that the real world was about to be destroyed, they understood that no matter how good their defenses were, they would not be able to stop Qin. So they came to pledge their loyalty. Their request was very simple. They wanted their families and legacies to be preserved. In the future, the Japanese people would become Qin's people and enjoy the same treatment as ordinary people, and they hoped that they would not become untouchables. Back then, the four countries had fiercely resisted, and because Zhao Fu had lost many people, he had angrily classified all of the players in the four countries as untouchables, and they had to work for Qin in order to become stronger. He had never thought that it would still be effective, and they could even threaten people to surrender. This matter was quite important, and Zhao Fu did not easily believe him. He only truly believed him after making sure that the information was accurate. With their betrayal, Qin would be able to take over the entire East, which was incredibly beneficial. As such, Zhao Fu nodded and agreed to the Japanese people's request. Chapter 946. To the east of China, there were 6 countries: North Korea, Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Although there were many countries, none of them were very strong. They were all relatively weak and had almost no resistance. The closest country to Qin was Indonesia, with 250 regions and 50 million people. Malaysia had 200 regions and 40 million people. Country F had 350 regions and 80 million people. Japan had 300 regions and 100 million people. Korea had 200 regions and 40 million people. And North Korea had 150 regions and 30 million people. In total, the 6 countries had 1,450 regions and 340 million people. Out of the 6 countries, there were only 4 nation armaments, and each of them came from one of the 4 countries. In Nepal, with the development of primitive social productivity, the development of transportation and trade in the South Sea, the increase of Indians coming and going to the archipelago, and the introduction of Indian culture, the earliest slave state, Yechiao, appeared in the second half of the 2nd century BC. Yechiao was located at the border of the Eastern Han Dynasty, where Indonesia is today. In the 6th year of Yongjian of the Eastern Han Dynasty, 131 AD, an envoy was sent to China to establish friendly relations. Malaysia. Bagni was the most prosperous country in Malaysia. In the 13th century, Bagni had 14 states. The capital had 10,000 people. At this time, it had entered a slave society, and the class difference was obvious. The economy was mainly agriculture. It produced camphor. The people boiled the sea for salt and brewed camphor for wine. In the 14th century, the people of Bagni worshipped Buddha. The central government appointed a minister to manage the country's finances and taxes. At the end of the 14th century, it belonged to Malacca. At the beginning of the 15th century, it belonged to the Malacca Kingdom. At the same time, it started to assimilate. Soon, it regained its independence and established a sultanate. At the beginning of the 16th century, the fifth sultan, Bolkiah, was in power. Other than most of Kalimantan, some islands in the south of the Philippines also belonged to Bagni. Historians called this period the Golden Age of Brunei's history. At the end of the 16th century, due to internal strife in the royal family, the Western colonists took the opportunity to invade. In 1888, it became a protectorate of the Eagle Kingdom. Country F, Barangay Union. The second group of Malaysians came to the archipelago by boat, called Barangay by the locals. The settlement they established was called Barangay. Barangay was the basic social organization of ancient Country F. Each barangay consisted of 30 to 100 households with varying numbers of people. The leader was called Datu or Raho. Barangay society consisted of three basic classes: nobles, freemen, and slaves. Due to the needs of production and war, the barangays gradually formed the Barangay Confederacy, which was the earliest form of slavery. Nation was a special country because it had only had one country in its history. It had never established any other countries. It had always implemented a monarchical system. Although the regime had been overthrown many times and power had fallen into the hands of others, the monarch had always existed and had never been abolished. Ever since the first heavenly emperor, Shinmu Heavenly Emperor, ascended the throne in 660 BC and continued to this day, it could be said to be a miracle. Its nation armament was quite unique as well. Not only did it look like a nation armament, it also looked like a fated kin's divine armament. It was something that was in between the two, and it was a combination. In other words, it had many of them: the Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the Yasukani no Magatama, and the Yada no Kata mirror. The four countries all had their own nation armaments. Finally, South Korea and North Korea had been one country in history, but they had split into two in recent times. This was because their regions were small and did not have much fate, and after splitting, they were unable to condense a nation armament. There were 1,450 regions and 340 million players in total, and in Zhao Fu's eyes, they were not even worth mentioning. In the face of death and entering the heaven-awakened world, they would all kneel and submit to Qin. It was the same for the four countries before, as it was better to live than to die. This time, Zhao Fu's main target was the system factions. There were 1,450 regions for 1,500 city lords and 450 million soldiers. However, not all their soldiers were gathered together, and there were some city lords who remained neutral. Zhao Fu's plan was to take down the six countries as quickly as possible before attacking China from behind and destroying the 2,000 regions to the east of China as quickly as possible. The eastern factions had 2,000 regions, and there were 6,000 or so city lords and 600 million Stage 1 soldiers. However, they were scattered in different places, and some chose to defend against Qin with the players while others chose not to participate. As such, they were not truly united. If they took down the eastern side, Qin would be able to unify the eastern and northern sides. That way, there would be no one left to fear. The eastern side of the Midland continent had 3,450 regions in total, and to devour so many regions at once, Zhao Fu's appetite would be incredibly big. Zhao Fu first gathered his subordinates to discuss this matter. If they succeeded, Qin would only be halfway to unifying the Midland continent, and the other half would be completed very quickly. After unifying the Midland continent, Qin would start to make a move on the other continents. The eastern side's factions could finally relax after setting up 4 layers of defenses. They had completely locked down the sky, ground, and underground, and no matter how powerful Great Qin was, it would not be able to break through their defenses. They were quite confident in this. This was because Qin had lost to this method twice before, but the second time was by digging tunnels. Now that they had set up defenses underground and in the sky, it was almost impossible for Qin to find a way to break through. What they needed to do now was to send people to stand guard here, as they could not have so many people staying here all the time. As long as they notified them when Qin attacked, they would have enough time to rush over. Moreover, everyone knew that Qin was clearing out regions and building the Great Wall. The situation in the north had not stabilized yet, so it was almost impossible for him to suddenly attack. It was currently the end of summer, and a bright moon gave off pure moonlight, illuminating the dark blue night sky. There were also a few stars around it. Brother, do you think we can stop Qin? Qin's rise is simply too fast, and the real world is about to be destroyed. If we die, we'll really die, and we don't know what to do in the future. A few people stood on the Great Wall, and one of them felt quite worried as he said to the person next to him. He felt quite lost and helpless about the future. The bearded man smiled as he replied, "Of course we can stop him. Do you think that we'll be destroyed by Qin? We're an alliance of 6 countries. Last time, Qin was lucky to dig tunnels, but now we've completely set up defenses." Chapter 947. It's impossible for Qin to break through. I'm quite confident in that. However, we can't control the future, so we can only take things one step at a time. However, I definitely won't submit to Qin. He's not a good person, and he's a Chinese kingdom. Hearing this, the person who had asked the question nodded and said, "Qin is indeed not a good person, and I heard that he made people peasants. He's incredibly despicable. Now, our defenses are like a firm fortress, and we don't have to fear Qin. Our kingdoms are also actively cooperating with other continents, and I believe that we have the power to stop Qin." At that moment, another person said, "I don't know how Qin developed so quickly. That Qin's legatee seems to have cheated and instantly unified the northern side of the Midland continent. He's incredibly dangerous, and only by uniting together can we stop him. It would be great if we had the strength to destroy Qin now." Another person could not help but laugh as he said, "If we had the strength to attack Qin's palace, we would be able to take all the treasures and beauties that Qin's legatee has collected. If we brought back any one of them, we would feel that our lives were worth it." Hearing his words, everyone else started to laugh. Within the darkness, a group of Japanese players led Great Qin's 15,000 or so city lords and stealthily passed through the 4 defensive lines. Because Japan had put in a lot of effort into the 4 defensive lines, they had left behind secret passages that Great Qin could use to silently pass through. After entering, 100 or so Japanese players were already waiting. They were the leaders of top-tier factions in Japan, and seeing Zhao Fu, they all knelt with their heads almost touching the ground. They were incredibly respectful and called out in unison, "We greet your majesty." The Japanese players could be praised for this. The other factions that had been conquered by Qin had never been so respectful. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he said, "You may rise." The Japanese players all got up, and a white-haired elder gave a flattering smile as he said, "It's our honor to be able to see you, your majesty. No matter what your majesty wants us to do, we will be loyal to your majesty to the death." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "When Qin attacks, you can attack the other countries. If you can make contributions, we will greatly reward you." The elder and the others all smiled and bowed in gratitude, looking like slaves. Following this, Qin also started to act. They first attacked the 6 countries, but they still had not noticed that Qin had already entered. Qin could use a sneak attack to destroy the 6 countries and break through their defenses, allowing a large number of Qin's armies to enter. Following this, they would attack the eastern side of China from the rear. Even though the eastern side of China still had some defenses, they were the same ones that had been set up to defend against the eastern side of China. Now that their attention was focused on Great Qin, all of their defenses were focused on defending against Great Qin, and they had no ability to defend against the eastern side. Now that they had reached an agreement with the other countries to resist Qin, they would not set up defenses here, making things easier for Qin. The 6 countries had 1,450 regions in total, so they had 4,500 or so city lords. Qin had 15,000 or so city lords, as well as 8 aquatic beast kings. Moreover, Zhao Fu had not sent out his full army yet, and he had left many people to defend against attacks from the other sides. The system factions were the greatest obstacle, so Zhao Fu ordered the 15,000 city lords to spread out and go to the side of the system factions. They would then wait for an opportunity to attack together. Of the four countries' nation armaments, Zhao, Mo, and Elise could deal with two, while Bai Qi and the others could deal with one, while Zhao Fu could choose one. The 8 aquatic beast kings were massive and suited for causing chaos, making it easier for Qin to take down the 6 countries. Deep into the night, everything fell into a deep slumber. A miserable cry resounded through the night sky, and then flames soared into the sky. Screams and cries pierced the ears as countless people fled for their lives or did their best to resist. The 6 nations fell into chaos. Qin's attacking the 6 countries. This news spread out, shaking the entire world. Countless people were woken up from their sleep, and after hearing about this, their expressions fell. They had never thought that Qin would suddenly attack at such a time. Moreover, he was not attacking one by one, but the 6 countries at the same time. Qin Zhao's people's expressions were quite unsightly, and they could not understand why such a comprehensive defense was useless against Qin. However, if it really was useless, then attacking the Midland continent would be more appropriate, as Qin's legatee hated them the most. Following this, they heard that when Great Qin attacked the other 6 countries, a large portion of Japan's forces did not resist and instead helped Great Qin attack the other countries. They were simply taking the side of the evildoer. Japan's abnormal actions allowed Qin Zhao's people to understand what was going on. It was not that the 4 defensive lines were useless, but that a traitor had appeared. Now that they realized Qin's goal, they immediately cried out in terror, "Hurry and defend the eastern side." Countless factions found out what Qin's goal was, and the entire eastern side of China fell into panic. Countless factions quickly gathered towards the eastern side. The 8 aquatic beast kings rampaged through the 6 countries' territories, once again unrestrainedly destroying and slaughtering those who were terrified. The 4 defensive lines had already been destroyed, and Qin's army used countless teleportation channels to quickly arrive within the 6 countries' territories. They then rode their armored cavalry and charged in all directions, starting to attack. Qin Zhao's sudden attack dealt a heavy blow to the 6 countries' system factions. Under the attack of Qin's 15,000 or so city lords, 1,500 of the 4,500 or so city lords died, and the rest were forced to submit under Qin Zhao's ferocious might. Now, even the countless player factions were in chaos and were unable to put up any effective resistance. They did not have enough strength either. Elsewhere, Zhao Mo turned into a 100-meter-tall demon sovereign king, and his claws gave off ferocious demonic qi as he killed Yi Qiao's legatee. His nation armament and city lord seal powerlessly fell to the ground. Roar! A pained and unwilling dragon's roar sounded throughout the eastern side of the Midland continent. A massive violet dragon struggled in pain and gradually collapsed, turning into countless traces of violet qi before disappearing. Following this, a system announcement sounded out in the minds of the Indonesian players. All of Indonesia's territory had been conquered by Qin. Indonesia had perished, and all of its fate had been absorbed by Qin. Now, all of the Indonesian players fell into despair. Their minds were completely blank, and they did not know what to do. If Indonesia was destroyed, what could they do? It was evident that they could not stop Great Qin. Were they going to die at Great Qin's hands? Chapter 948. At this time, a voice sounded like the sound of nature, like a ray of light in the endless darkness, comforting their fragile and afraid souls. His Majesty, the King of Qin, has ordered that those who surrender to Qin now can directly become his people. If you follow him to attack Huaxia, Qin will not turn you into your real bodies. You just need to attack Huaxia desperately. After the real world is destroyed, you will be rewarded according to your contributions. In the future, you will all be meritorious people. Qin himself had mastered the method of turning a large number of real bodies. Now, they could either choose to surrender or to die. There must be a small number of people who chose to die. When they heard that they would not be pariahs and would be given preferential treatment for meritorious deeds, they did not hesitate much because they had no other choice. I join Qin and am willing to serve Qin." One person shouted, and the others also responded. They did not seem to resist Qin at all. Now, they had already regarded themselves as Qin's people. Zhao Fu wanted to deal with the attack on the east of Huaxia. They learned that Qin was attacking the 6 countries, and countless forces were coming to the east. If they gathered too many people and formed a strong direction, Qin's plan to attack the east of Huaxia would fail. Therefore, they temporarily changed their plan and used the 6 countries to attack Huaxia together. This relationship was a little strange. The 6 countries were originally foreign countries, but they attacked Huaxia under Qin's order, while Qin belonged to Huaxia. Now only the nation had not been destroyed, but most of its people had surrendered and followed others to attack Huaxia. The 6 countries gathered into 6 teams and fiercely attacked the east of Huaxia, as if they did not care about their lives. Because Qin would reward them according to their contributions, they would not really die at this time. It was the best time to take this opportunity to make meritorious deeds for Qin. If they wanted to make meritorious deeds in the future, they would really have to risk their lives. The forces in the east of Huaxia had not gathered many people at all. They did not expect that the countries that had just been defeated by Qin would all surrender so cowardly and listen to Qin's order to attack Huaxia. When the 2 sides were fighting, the Huaxia side angrily scolded the 6 countries for being spineless and the most shameless and despicable. Just a moment ago, they had been cooperating with each other and acted as if they were brothers. Now, they were attacking the Huaxia side desperately. They were acting as executioners for Qin and slaughtering people for Qin. Now that the 6 countries had surrendered to Qin, they would definitely speak for Qin. They retorted loudly and forcefully, "We are loyal to a wise ruler. Qin's prince is the rightful ruler, and Qin is blessed by the heavens. He will unify the Middle-earth continent in the end. We are also following the will of the heavens. Now we will suppress you rebels and get rid of you scourges for Qin." Both sides were locked in a fierce battle, but the 6 nations had a great advantage in terms of numbers. This was because they were close by and could directly launch an attack, while the defending factions were only from the eastern side of China. The other factions had not yet arrived. Secondly, the defensive measures were not complete, so they were unable to form a powerful defense. The third point was their will to fight. Their kingdoms had already been destroyed, so they had no other choice but to serve great Qin. If they could make great contributions without dying, they would not have to worry in the future. However, how could the Chinese side have the will to fight to the death? The last emperor of Japan was not willing to submit to Qin, and he was personally killed by Zhao Fu. Japan's 3 divine weapons, the Kusanagi no Magatama and the Yada no Kagami mirror, had fallen into Zhao Fu's hands. The reason why Japan had not been destroyed yet was because there was still a faction that had not been destroyed. This faction was called the Knight of 100 Ghosts, and it was the faction that Masanori Hanno had established. Zhao Fu gave off a terrifying aura as he stood above the Devil City. As the legatee, Masanori Hanno definitely had great power. Zhao Fu was the world protector, and she was the legatee. Both of them could use the human world's power, and they were the protectors of the world. However, in the current situation, they could not use the world's power. Masanori Hanno stood in the sky and looked at Zhao Fu with a complicated gaze. Behind her stood 3 people giving off massive amounts of devil chi. The first had 2 horns and carried a jug of wine on his back. He was incredibly handsome, and he was Shutten Duji. The second wore armor and had crow wings. He had a long nose and a savage expression, and he was Dai Tengu. The third was an incredibly enchanting beauty with 9 tails, and she was Tamamonome. These 3 devils were the 3 most famous devils in Japan, and they were the 3 most powerful devils. There were all sorts of legends about them, and they were led by Shutten Duji. Looking at Masanori Hanno, Zhao Fu's attitude became much better because he had a good impression of her. He said softly, "Masanori Hanno, you're not a match for me. Japan has basically submitted, so you don't have to persist anymore. If you're willing to submit to Qin, I'll give you preferential treatment in the future." Masanori Hanno felt quite complicated because Japan had already perished and would never exist again. She was one of the last remaining factions in Japan. So, she had many feelings for Japan. Masanori Hanno could not bear to let it perish like this. However, the three great devils behind her were quite open-minded. Not only had Japan perished, but all other countries might perish in the future. Qin's rise was unstoppable, so they decided to persuade Masanori Hanno to submit to Qin. She had a good relationship with Qin's legatee and had never opposed him before. Moreover, she was a legatee, so she would be able to obtain a high position in Qin. This was the best choice. Masanori Hanno was quite shaken, but under the persuasion of her three closest great devils, she finally nodded and agreed. After the last faction submitted, Japan perished and the 6 countries perished. The eastern coastline was unified, and the next step was to attack the eastern side of China. Originally, the 6 armies had ferociously attacked China, and the defending Chinese factions could only defend for a while. Even though various factions continuously rushed to the east, Qin's factions also rushed to the east at an even faster speed. However, when Qin and the 6 armies met up, they broke through the defenses of the eastern side of China in one fell swoop. They gave off an incredibly powerful aura, and they were unstoppable. The eastern side of China could only continuously retreat. In the end, the various factions desperately resisted, and some of the traps they had set up beforehand were barely able to stop Qin in the Wendan region. By now, 3/4 of the eastern side of China had been conquered by Qin. Adding on the 6 countries, 90% of the eastern side of the Midland continent had been conquered. Chapter 949. Now, Great Qin's army and city lords were suppressing the surrounding areas, stabilizing the situation and defending against attacks from the various sides. Zhao Fu started to take inventory of their gains. They had obtained 6,500 great cities and 1,500 cities. Most of the great cities came from the 6 countries, and almost all of the cities came from the 6 countries. When Qin had ordered the 6 countries to attack China, the Chinese side had been utterly defeated, and they had almost reached the central region. If it wasn't for the fact that Qin's people had predicted that they would not be able to defend the eastern side, so they had set up a defensive zone nearby. Otherwise, Qin Zhao might have been able to conquer the central region and reach the western side of the Midland continent. The current situation was quite ironic. It could be said that the Chinese side had killed their own people, and they had even used foreign powers to harm the Chinese side. However, the Chinese side had cooperated with the other countries, while Qin had forced them to submit. The Chinese side had been utterly defeated, and many factions had to relocate. As such, Qin's gains in the eastern side of China were quite small, and he had conquered most of the regions, which were 3,100 in total. There were 6,500 great cities and 1,500 cities, which gave Qin 5 billion people and 500 million stage 1 soldiers. Now, Qin's population had reached 5 billion people and 900 million soldiers. There were 820 million stage 1 soldiers, 10 million stage 2 soldiers, 8 million stage 3 soldiers, and 60,000 stage 4 soldiers. Qin Zhao controlled 6,820 regions, 1 marquee city, 3 barony cities, 6 capital cities, 15070 great cities, and 4,421 cities. Qin's strength had greatly increased, and his main focus was to digest these people and regions. He could not do anything to the outside world, as they had taken too many people. They had taken more than 1/3 of Qin's population, and if they rebelled, it would be difficult to deal with them. There was also the problem of regions. Before, Qin still had 1,000 or so regions to clear out, and now he had to clear out 3,000 regions. This was not a simple matter, and adding on the construction of the Great Wall, it would take at least a year to complete. In order to stabilize the people's morale, Zhao Fu first rewarded the players and indigenous residents. This time, the performance of the 6 countries was very good, especially the people of Re Nation. They were very fierce when attacking Huaxia, and they even shouted the slogan, Mighty Qin, which made Zhao Fu feel very strange. But now the Six Kingdoms had become a thing of the past. They were also the people of Qin, and Zhao Fu did not demote them to untouchables. They could receive the normal treatment of the people of Qin, which made them feel relieved. In order to celebrate this victory, Qin also held a banquet to reward everyone. Compared to Qin's jubilation, the various forces in the central continent looked gloomy. They looked at the people around them suspiciously. After the battle with the Ri nation, the forces that originally had their own thoughts became even more distrustful of each other. If there were more traitors like Ri, once Qin attacked again, they would really fall apart. Now, Qin had almost occupied the east and was entrenched in the north. It could be said that half of the Middle Earth had been conquered by Qin. As such, their resistance had been greatly reduced. As such, they could only discuss how to prevent such a thing from happening again, and the people who had plotted against Qin also helped them. There was also the person who had led the invasions, the person who had led the 21 countries in invading China. Great Qin had already punished him, and the key figures had all been killed. His family had also been destroyed, and his family could only struggle at death's door. Now, there were 20 or so women kneeling in front of Zhao Fu. They were from these families, and 2 of them were the most outstanding. One of them was Pu Siohai, the person who had led the Goryeo invasion. She had said that Huaxia's culture had been stolen from Goryeo people. Now, she, her mother, and her sister were all kneeling on the ground like pitiful little beasts. There was another person who was much more dignified and virtuous. She was from Ri Nation and wore a red kimono. She had jet black hair and knelt on the ground, holding a sword. She was Oda Kamaya's older sister, Oda Kana. Oda Kamaya had been quite famous in the early days as the descendant of Oda Nobunaga, but he had been surpassed by others, such as Masanori Hanno and the Emperor. As the person who had led the Japanese invasion of China, Zhao Fu had not treated him well, and he had never thought about submitting to Qin. After Qin had forced his way into the city, Oda Kamaya had used the Muramasa demon blade that gave off a blood-red light to commit suicide. The Muramasa demon blade was the blade that Oda Kana was holding. Even though it was in its scabbard, it gave off an evil aura. Zhao Fu grabbed at the air, and the Muramasa demon blade appeared in Zhao Fu's hand. Zhao Fu pulled out the blade, and a massive, evil aura spread out. The blade gave off a cold light, causing people's hairs to stand on end. This blade gave off an evil aura, and it was a saint armament. It had most likely killed many people. Zhao Fu was not very interested in this blade, but seeing that Zhao Sha seemed quite interested in it, Zhao Fu decided to give it to him. Zhao Sha had the potential to become a higher being, and Zhao Fu would do everything he could to nurture him. Before, Zhao Sha had obtained an assassin legacy and used a dagger, which was suitable for assassination. Now that he had given the Muramasa demon blade to Zhao Fu, he would be able to face off against others. After taking care of everything, Zhao Fu came before Oda Kana. Zhao Fu was quite interested in this woman, and he picked her up. Oda Kana's face became red, and she understood what was going to happen next. However, for the Oda family, she had to properly serve this man. Oda Kana lightly hugged Zhao Fu and pressed her head against Zhao Fu's chest. Zhao Fu hugged her and some other women as they walked into the refining pavilion. After some indescribable things, Zhao Fu put on his clothes with Oda Kana's help. After coming outside, Zhao Fu could not help but sigh. It seems that Japanese women are the best at serving men. At the same time, Zhao Fu took out the 4 nation armaments and prepared to refine 3 of them into Qin City's nation armaments. As for the 3 Japanese divine armaments, Zhao Fu had asked the Golden Dragon about them, and the Golden Dragon had said that they were quite special. Some were like ordinary weapons, some were like nation armaments, and some were like clan armaments. If he refined them into ordinary nation armaments, they would not be able to be used to their full potential and would destroy their original value. Under the Golden Dragon's suggestion, Zhao Fu planned to nurture the 3 Japanese divine armaments into the most powerful weapons of slaughter. This was not for Zhao Fu himself, but for the primogenitor statue. After all, the three Japanese divine armaments attributes were quite similar to the primogenitor statue, so he could give them to it to use. Chapter 950. As for the abilities after nurturing them, the Golden Dragon had already explained to Zhao Fu that they would be the most powerful killing weapon, and their effects would be heaven-shaking and earth-shattering. Even godly spirits would fear them. However, in order to display its effects, he had to at least completely refine the primogenitor statue. This was because the three divine artifacts had already fused with the primogenitor statue, and the three divine artifacts would be reborn with him. Moreover, he needed the primogenitor statue to be able to use them. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as a great desolate-era cauldron once again condensed in the sky. The three-nation armaments were refined by a formless flame within it, and all of their auras and marks disappeared before being wiped away. Great Qin's fate fused into them, causing them to go through changes. Indonesia's nation armament was a circular shield made of bronze. There were pictures of ancient Indonesia battles engraved on it, and Qin's fate caused the bronze shield's killing and conquering aura to become even more intense. Malaysia's nation armament was a small boat that looked quite ordinary, but gave off a powerful aura. There were black dragon inscriptions on the boat, and its aura became more noble. Finally, Country F's nation armament was a spear. After Qin's fate fused into it, the spear became jet black and gave off a heavy and mysterious aura. After refining these three nation armaments, Zhao Fu placed them next to Qin's city heart. Qin now had 10 or so nation armaments. Following this, Zhao Fu went to the Blood Lake and fused the three nation armaments into the primogenitor statue's chest. The process was naturally quite smooth. After taking care of this, Qin did not have much else to do. He just had to clear out regions, build a great wall, and digest the captured people. On the third day, another shocking event happened. Perhaps because of Zhao Fu, the spirit light world's real world was destroyed ahead of time, and all of the spirit light creatures entered it. Because the real world was about to be destroyed, Zhao Fu felt quite curious about this. As such, he carefully gathered information about the spirit light race so that he could know some things ahead of time. Before, the spirit light race had not received any system announcements about the world being destroyed, but after that battle, they suddenly received a system announcement. Moreover, there were only 7 days left before the world was destroyed. It seemed that the effects of that battle had been quite great. The spirit light world was the world that would be destroyed the fastest, which was quite disadvantageous. Fortunately, it was not like the human world, where an opening had been opened in the heaven domain boundary, so other worlds would not invade. If one side died, they would truly die, but the other side wouldn't. The side that would truly die would definitely be at a disadvantage. If they died, then so be it. The more they fought, the smaller their numbers would be. On the other hand, the other side had an undying body. At most, their battle prowess would be slightly weakened. It was a pity that there was the dark demon world between the human world and the spirit light world, or else Zhao Fu would have been able to invade the spirit light world with the advantage of not dying. The spirit light world had already entered a defensive state and had constructed a large number of defenses at the boundary of the world. This was because their world had already been destroyed, and once the heaven domain boundary disappeared, the previous world and other worlds would invade. They definitely would not be able to do so without defenses. They felt immense hatred towards Great Qin's legatee, who had caused their world to be destroyed ahead of time. Moreover, all of the spirit light world's creatures would enter the heaven awakened world, regardless of whether they were intelligent or not. Wild beasts, insects, fish, and all sorts of birds would enter, but no one knew the specifics. Qin continued to divide the various alliances. Before, when Qin occupied one side, many people had wavered. Now that Qin occupied half of the Midland continent, they had an even greater advantage. At the same time, because Qin was about to unify the Midland continent, the other continents did not just help. After Qin unified the Midland continent, their continents would be in danger, so they allied even more closely and attacked Qin a few times. What Zhao Fu did not expect was that a second kingdom had appeared in the human world. It was June 14th, and a dragon's roar sounded throughout the human world. The weather suddenly changed as the heaven and earth fate started to roil. The western sky was covered by a layer of golden light, and it was filled with a holy king's aura. It caused tens of thousands of people to submit. Even though Zhao Fu was in China, he could clearly sense this power. Golden snowflakes floated in the sky, creating a majestic and beautiful scene. Establishing a kingdom was an incredibly important matter for the entire human world, and it could cause the heavens and earth to go through changes. In a certain place in the western continent, countless people knelt on the ground as golden light shined down from the sky. A golden western dragon gave off a massive aura as it spiraled in the sky. On the heaven prayer platform, there was a confident and beautiful woman wearing a silver knight's dress and holding a golden sword, creating a dignified and holy scene. The person who had established the kingdom was Tina Pendragon, and the kingdom was called the Great British Empire. It had 320 regions and was a level 3 barony kingdom. Everyone in the human world knew Tina Pendragon's name, and she was hailed as the most legendary woman in the human world. No one could compare to her, and all women paled in comparison to her. Firstly, she was born into an incredibly noble family, and she was the descendant of the greatest Western legend, King Arthur. From the very beginning, she had been respected by the Western factions, and her self-confidence, righteousness, and bravery made countless people infatuated. Next was her power. She was definitely one of the most powerful people in the human world. She was the leader of the 8 legatees, and her status was only below that of the world protector. From this, it could be seen just how powerful she was. Finally, there was her peerlessly beautiful looks. No matter if it was a man or a woman, they would all fall in love with her. Compared to Qin Han, who used violence to control violence and kill to stop killing, he used soldiers to conquer the world. He was like a ferocious and invincible army, and he was incredibly ferocious. Tina Pendragon subdued people with virtue, treated them with kindness, and ruled them with benevolence. In the end, she would conquer them with force. She walked the path of benevolence and sainthood, while Qin walked the path of tyranny. Both paths had their pros and cons. Of course, the path of benevolence did not develop as quickly as the path of tyranny. However, the path of tyranny had many enemies, while the path of benevolence attracted many talented people to join. Tina Pendragon used this method, and most people submitted to her willingly. She rarely started battles, and those who submitted to her were all very loyal. They were not like Qin Han, who fought battles every day without a moment's rest. If anyone was dissatisfied, she would use force to conquer them. Chapter 9:51. Countless people had expected that she would be able to establish a kingdom, as she was simply too popular in the Western continent. She was loved and respected by almost everyone, not just players but indigenous residents and system main cities as well. This was the biggest reason why she had been able to establish a kingdom. However, it was too late for anyone to establish a kingdom, as Qin City was about to unify the Midland continent. Even if they established a kingdom, did they have the strength to resist it? After hearing about this, Zhao Fu was not too surprised. Right now, the most important thing was to unify the Midland continent, and only after unifying the Midland continent would they make a move against the other continents. Taking down the Western continent now would be quite troublesome. However, Zhao Fu did not care too much about a small barony kingdom, as it had the confidence of a marquisate kingdom. Apart from Tina Pendragon, the Pharaoh Kingdom's legatee would also establish a kingdom soon. After all, the southern continent corresponded to Africa in the real world, and there were very few dynasty legatees there. Moreover, it was a primitive tribal society, and the Pharaoh Kingdom had many advantages there. On July 5th, almost everyone in the real world returned to the real world, and no one stayed in the Heaven Awakened world. This was the last day of the real world's destruction. As the sun rose, the darkness faded, revealing a blue sky and white clouds. The sparrows on the branches happily chirped, and Zhao Fu woke up early and ate some breakfast. Now that it was the last day, and the real world was about to be destroyed, Zhao Fu could not help but feel a bit melancholic. After all, he had lived on Earth for 20 or so years, and this place contained countless memories. Some were painful, some were happy, some of the most difficult, and some of the happiest. Now that it was about to be destroyed, Zhao Fu could not help but feel these emotions. It was not just Zhao Fu. Everyone else felt the same way. The older they were, the more reluctant they felt. China had been born here for 5,000 years, and it had contained China's history and culture. Now, it was time for everything to come to an end, and humans would begin a new era, record new history, and create a new world. The Ying family was filled with joy, and everyone could not help but feel excited. Today was the day that they could enter Qin, ending the awkward situation of not being able to enter Qin despite being part of the Qin royal family. From now on, the Ying family would be the true royal family of Qin. Qin had swept through the heaven-awakened world and was incredibly powerful. Almost no one could stop him, and the Ying family did not have to pay any price. At first, they had looked down on Qin's legatee because he was an outsider. He only had a bit of the Ying family bloodline. He was not even a branch family. The Ying family had their legatee because he was a member of the Qin's legatee. This humiliation was often mocked by other factions, and they said some nasty things, such as how the Ying family had no one left and that the legatee had been obtained by a bastard. It was simply too laughable that the Ying family was one of China's 5 great families. Not only did others mock him, but the Ying family also hated this humiliation. They wanted to get rid of him and cut him into pieces to vent their hatred. However, what the Ying family and countless people had never expected was that Qin had relied on that bastard to walk to the peak of the world without anyone's help. His performance had shocked the world time and time again. Now, not only did he have to help Qin recover, but he also had to unify China, the Midland continent, and the human world. Who in the world could do this? Before, Tina Pendragon was the most legendary woman in the human world. In front of her, anyone would pale in comparison, and no one could compare to her. Now, there was someone who could compare to her and even completely surpassed her. From a nameless person, his name had resounded throughout China, the human world, and several worlds. Prince Qin had started his own legend. Now, he had established a huge empire, a fierce name that intimidated the world, and a never-ending mystery. He was the leader of the human world, and all the major events in the world were related to him. Everything revolved around him, and his experiences were enough to write a legend. Let alone Tina Pendragon. Even the human world would pale in comparison to him. No one knew how much potential he had, and no one knew how far he could go. The only thing they knew was that he would surpass their imagination. If there was a selection of the greatest figures of the new century, the first place would definitely be Prince Qin. No one would be able to surpass him in the future. Now, the Ying family only rejoiced and had no other emotions. They rejoiced that Qin's legatee had found the best master, that their ancestors had chosen the most suitable person, and that the outsider was Prince Qin. Now, it was true that no one in the Ying family could compare to him. Who in the world could compare to him? Even if this person was not Prince Qin's legatee, his future would still be extraordinary. It could be said that it wasn't a matter of whether the Ying family thought highly of Great Qin's legatee or not, but whether or not the Ying family could enter Great Qin's legatee's eyes. Right now, the Ying family could only desperately curry favor with Great Qin's legatee, and they would do anything Great Qin's legatee gave them. They just wanted Prince Qin to like the Ying family and not despise the Ying family. Here, an important figure was Zhao Fu, the acting head of the Ying family and the spokesperson of Prince Qin. To be honest, the heads of the Ying family and the leaders of the Ying family also looked down on Zhao Fu, because Zhao Fu was also an outsider with a low status and no outstanding ability. There were many people like him in the Ying family, but Prince Qin chose him to be the spokesperson. He wondered what kind of luck Zhao Fu had to be able to catch Great Qin's legatee's eye. Now, he was an important minister of Great Qin, and he was one of Great Qin's legatee's favorites. In the beginning, the heads of the Ying family and the leaders of the Ying family treated Zhao Fu well. However, because of Prince Qin's legatee, they looked down on Zhao Fu, just like other people. However, with Zhao Fu's current achievements, they changed their minds. Now, their identities were reversed. Zhao Fu had a high status, while Zhao Fu looked down on them. How could they dare to look down on Zhao Fu? Now, they could only try their best to curry favor with Zhao Fu. At the same time, they rejoiced that Zhao Fu had been chosen by Great Qin's legatee as his representative. If it wasn't for him, the Ying family might not have any connection with Great Qin's legatee, and if that happened, Great Qin's legatee would have refused to acknowledge them or even destroyed them. Because of Zhao Fu, the distance between them and Prince Qin was shortened, and he was also recognized by Prince Qin. Now, they could even become the head of Qin's legatee. Without Zhao Fu, it was almost impossible for them to have such a thing. Chapter 952. Today, the Ying family's family leaders had come to find Zhao Fu and warmly smiled as they talked to Zhao Fu about entering Qin. Zhao Fu told them not to worry and that as long as they entered the Heaven-Awakened world, there would be people to receive them. After hearing this, the family leaders smiled and left, and they excitedly waited for the final moment to arrive. Now that Zhao Fu had nothing to do, he waited for the real world to be destroyed. At that moment, Yingxi came to find Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu felt quite surprised because he had not seen her in a long time. It seemed that ever since he had become the proxy family leader, he had not seen her very often. Zhao Fu, is Qingyang all right? Yingxi looked quite haggard and slightly frowned as she came to Zhao Fu and asked worriedly. Hearing this, Zhao Fu could not help but think of how she and Wu Zetian would often lie on the bed, and he smiled as he replied, "She's fine. Has that lecherous Emperor Qin not touched her?" Yingxi asked Zhao Fu in disbelief. After all, how could any woman who entered Qin be fine? Just based on the number of women, there were countless. After all, that lecherous and licentious Emperor Qin would take all of the beauties from every kingdom he conquered. Zhao Fu did not know how to reply because Zhao Fu had long since touched Wu Qingyang, and he was the lecherous and licentious Emperor Qin. Seeing that Zhao Fu did not know how to reply, and she thought that Emperor Qin had done something to Wu Qingyang, and she felt quite angry as she glared at Zhao Fu and said, "Zhao Fu, how could you be like this? Qingyang has always chosen you as her man and has slept with you before. How could you give your woman to Emperor Qin?" Zhao Fu really didn't know how to answer. He was Prince Qin, and there was no such thing as giving his woman to someone else. How could he telling she that he was Prince Qin? Now, it was the last moment of the real world, but Zhao Fu still wanted to wait until the real world was destroyed. Qin would understand when they entered the real world. "It's not what you think. I'm taking care of Qingyang. She's doing well. You'll understand when you enter the Qin state." Zhao Fu could only explain it this way. Hearing this, Yingxi's expression became better. She lowered her head and asked in a small voice, "What's your legatee like? Are they really cruel, bloodthirsty, and licentious?" Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. Looking at her, he couldn't help but think about how the Ying family wanted to send Yingxi to Qin City as his concubine. It seemed that she wasn't very willing, but seeing that she had helped him before, Zhao Fu decided to send Yingxi to Qin City. "Don't worry, I'll definitely persuade the legatee to give up on this." Yingxi looked up at Zhao Fu in delight. She had been worried about this for a long time. She didn't want to be locked up in the Qin Palace every day and be played by the rumored ferocious legatee. Even though she was also a member of the Ying family, it was difficult for her to accept such an outcome. However, Yingxi thought about what the leader of the Ying family had said. No matter what, she had to think about the Ying family and her parents and relatives. This time, it wasn't just her but 6 pure-blooded women from the Ying family as concubines. Only then would the legatee and the Ying family be connected, and the Ying family's status in the Qin state could be preserved. Thinking about this, the smile on Yingxi's face faded as she shook her head and said, "Thank you, but there's no need." I just wanted to ask if the legatee of Qin is as terrifying as the rumors say and how he treats women. Zhao Fu didn't quite understand, but how could he speak ill of him? As such, he shamelessly said, "The legatee is actually a very good person, and the rumors are all false. He's very kind and friendly, especially to the people of the Qin Palace. As such, he's deeply loved by the people of the Qin state. At the same time, he doesn't have a bad temper and is never arrogant. He's always been humble, discussing with his ministers, and, after speaking for an hour, Yingxi looked at Zhao Fu suspiciously. According to Zhao Fu, the legatee of Qin state was a man that countless women were infatuated with. This was because the legatee of Qin state that Zhao Fu spoke of was not only incredibly handsome, but he also had an outstanding temperament. He was very kind and treated others with respect, and most importantly, he was very gentle to women. Countless women were infatuated with him. It could be said that Zhao Fu was incredibly shameless and had said all sorts of good things about himself, making him seem like the best man in the world. Seeing that Zhao Fu was about to continue, and she could not help but say, "All right, stop praising your legatee. In actuality, it would be great if he was half as good as you. I really envy Qingyang for finding the person she likes and being able to be with him." Even though she interrupted Zhao Fu and did not believe Zhao Fu's words, her mood became much better and she was not as depressed as before. Looking at her, Zhao Fu could not help but say, "Really, don't force yourself. If you're not willing, I'll definitely persuade the legatee not to agree. You don't have to worry about the Ying family because the legatee has never thought about destroying the Ying family and has always been the royal family of Qin state. I can guarantee this with my life." Really, Yingxi was incredibly moved. Hearing that Zhao Fu was willing to help her, she could not help but feel incredibly moved, and tears danced in her eyes. Right now, everyone was trying to force her to become the legatee's concubine, and she felt incredibly helpless. Zhao Fu nodded seriously because he was the legatee of Qin state, so he could definitely do it. "Thank you so much. I never thought that you would be so important to the legatee of Qin state that you could even persuade him. I've underestimated you in the past, and I apologize for my arrogance. Now, I realize that the biggest mistake I've made was giving you to Qingyang," Yingxi said to Zhao Fu from the bottom of her heart. Zhao Fu lightly laughed. "Let bygones be bygones. Back then, I relied on your protection to survive until now, or else I would have long since been killed by the Li family." Yingxi smiled and nodded, and the two of them chatted for a while before Yingxi happily left. Following this, Zhao Fu turned on his computer for the last time. By now, the internet was down, but there were messages from a few days ago. The class president had sent him an address in the Heaven Awakened world, telling him to find him if things weren't going well. Zhao Fu was incredibly warm-hearted. The class president Zheng Dong's faction was in the southern part of the Midland continent, and Zhao Fu wondered what he would do after Qin state unified the Midland continent. He could not send any messages, so Zhao Fu could only laugh. There was also Wang Yu, who he had helped before, who was his desk mate from high school. She had borrowed money from a group and sent a message to Zhao Fu, saying that her luck had been quite good recently, and she had obtained 3 gold coins. She wanted to return the money to Zhao Fu and asked Zhao Fu for his address. Chapter 9:53. Soon, it was noon, and no one knew exactly when the world would be destroyed. Zheng Yuqin had prepared a table full of food and called Zhao Fu to eat. This was the first time that Zhao Fu had eaten 2 meals in a row in the real world since the Heaven Awakened world had opened. Zhao Fu did not hold back, as Zheng Yuqin's food was quite to his liking. Zheng Yuqin sat by the side and smiled as she picked food for Zhao Fu. Her aura had become more and more mature, and her face was ruddy and her eyes were incredibly seductive. Looking at her like this, Zhao Fu almost wanted to eat her up. Ever since he had gone to university, he had always fantasized about doing certain things with her. Facing Zhao Fu's invasive gaze, Zheng Yuqin's face became red and she lowered her head, feeling quite expectant. Her body had been enduring the 6 desires demonic qi for such a long time, and she had to rely on herself every day and night. Images of her doing it with Zhao Fu appeared in her mind. Before, she did not have much confidence because she was not young anymore, and she was afraid that Zhao Fu would not be interested in her. However, when she saw Zhao Fu do it with Zhang Hongmei, who was a few years older than her, she found that Zhao Fu was even more powerful than usual, making it so that Zhang Hongmei could only come once every few days. She also found out about Zhao Fu's special preferences. The atmosphere was quite ambiguous, and Zhao Fu smiled. Just as he was about to do something, the heavens and earth started to change, and clouds started to swirl. The entire ground started to tremble, and Zhao Fu understood that the final moment had arrived, so he walked out of the villa. Countless rainbow-colored lights descended from the sky, and a boundless aura rushed out, causing people's souls to tremble. Everyone in the world came outside and looked at this dreamlike scene. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out in the sky, and that aura swept through the world like a wild gale. In front of that massive aura, everyone felt incredibly small and powerless. The image of another world gradually appeared in the sky. There were towering trees, majestic mountains, lakes that were as big as oceans, and all sorts of ferocious beasts. Rainbow-colored lights and dense spirit chi filled the air, making it seem like a primordial world. This illusory world gave off an ancient and powerful aura. This was the Heaven Awakened world. After the Heaven Awakened world appeared, an unimaginably powerful attractive force appeared. This attractive force was not only corporeal but illusory, and it felt as if even souls were going to be sucked away. The entire human world continued to collapse, and the ground violently trembled as countless cracks appeared. Lava flowed out of the cracks, and flames rushed into the sky as smoke and dust filled the air. Apocalyptic bolts of lightning continuously blasted the ground, making it seem like the end of the world. However, at that moment, all living creatures in the world were sucked into the illusory world by an invisible suction force. It was not just humans, but other living creatures as well. Zhao Fu was also sucked into that massive wave of energy, and he felt dizzy before he found himself in the Heaven Awakened world. His body gave off a rainbow light, and at the same time, a system announcement sounded out in his mind that his body in the real world had fused with his body in the Heaven Awakened world. All of the humans fused with their bodies in the Heaven Awakened world, and countless other living creatures submitted. For example, countless fish were released into the water by a formless energy, countless wild beasts were released into the forests, and countless birds were allowed to fly in the sky. Now, it could be said that not only had the human world entered the Heaven Awakened world, but other living creatures had also been brought into the Heaven Awakened world. The real world was most likely going to be destroyed, the ground there would collapse, and the surface would be covered with lava. There would be smoke and dust everywhere. It would be impossible for any living creatures to survive. The blue star would become a dead star that gave off fiery light. In actuality, Earth had not truly been destroyed because it still existed. Perhaps after billions of years of development, life would appear again, and perhaps humans would appear again. Perhaps the Heaven Awakened world would descend again. After thinking for a while, Li Si came up and reported, "Your Majesty, the Ying family has entered the Qin city. The Ying family's people have already entered the great Qin Empire, and I've already made arrangements for them." Hearing this, Zhao Fu calmly nodded. Following this, the Ying family's family leaders and hundreds of important figures from the Ying family suppressed their excitement because they were about to meet the person they dreamed of meeting, Legatee Qin. He was the person the Ying family respected the most, and he was the pride of the Qin family. Now, they were waiting outside the palace for Legatee Qin's summons, and they could not help but guess what kind of person Legatee Qin was. Some said that he was incredibly handsome and could cause all women in the world to fall for him, while others said that he was incredibly dignified and domineering, or else he would not have been able to create such a ferocious Qin. Others said that Legatee Qin was the most charismatic person. Now that they were about to meet Great Qin's Legatee, the man who had ascended to the top of the human world, everyone had their own guesses. Even the calm and experienced family leaders couldn't help but wonder what Great Qin's legatee was like. Yingxi did not think too much about it, because with Zhao Fu's assurance, she did not have to worry. No matter what legatee Qin was like, she did not want to care too much about him. From the rumors, he was definitely not a good person. Instead, Yingxi wanted to see Zhao Fu and Wu Qingyang more. After all, they had relied on Zhao Fu this time, and Yingxi felt incredibly grateful towards him. Only with him by her side would she be able to relax. As for Wu Qingyang, she was the person closest to her. Summon all members of the Ying family. Enter the palace. A loud cry sounded out, and the Ying family's people became nervous. They obediently lowered their heads to avoid angering that terrifying legatee Qin as they followed the guards into the palace. After walking into the palace, the Ying family's people knelt down and cried out in unison, "We greet your majesty. May your majesty live for 10,000 years. You may rise." A familiar voice sounded out in their ears, causing them to feel quite startled. Why was Zhao Fu's voice here? Only a sovereign king could say such a thing, and now that legatee Qin had said such a thing, they used this opportunity to look at the person sitting on the throne. What they saw made them feel as if they were going to have a heart attack. The family leader's legs became weak, and they almost knelt to the ground. Was the person sitting on the throne really Zhao Fu? Was Zhao Fu really legatee Qin? The Ying family's people looked incredibly shocked as they stared at Zhao Fu. They had never thought that Zhao Fu was legatee Qin. That incredibly mysterious and ferocious legatee, who they could not find no matter how hard they tried, had actually been in the Ying family from the very beginning. "Are you surprised that we are legatee Qin?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he sat on the throne. Chapter 954. They had never thought that Zhao Fu was Qin's legatee. In the beginning, they had looked down on Zhao Fu because Zhao Fu had a lowly background. Thinking about it now, they felt quite afraid. If they had done anything to Zhao Fu back then, the entire Ying family might have been wiped out by him, as he was the person with the highest authority in Qin. At the same time, they felt incredibly regretful. Why hadn't they known that Zhao Fu was Qin's legatee? That way, they would have been able to curry favor with him. Everyone cursed themselves for being so stupid. They had missed such a good opportunity and had foolishly treated Zhao Fu as a spokesperson. He was the legatee of Qin's legatee that they had dreamed of. Now, the Ying family's people could only hope that Zhao Fu wouldn't mind what they had done in the past. Otherwise, the consequences would be dire. Thinking about that, everyone broke out in cold sweat and felt terrified. Their bodies slightly trembled, and they begged Zhao Fu to forgive them. The person who was the most shocked was Yingxi, as she was the first to come into contact with Zhao Fu. Back then, Zhao Fu had been an unremarkable minor figure in her eyes, but Zhao Fu's performance time and time again had caused her to feel incredibly shocked. His status had already surpassed hers. However, she had never thought that Zhao Fu's status would be so terrifying. With her status, she couldn't even compare to a hair of his, as Zhao Fu had already become the most prestigious person in the world. Now, and she didn't even dare to look at Zhao Fu because the Zhao Fu in her mind was completely different from the current Zhao Fu. This made her feel fear and lowly, and the only thing that made her feel fortunate was that her relationship with him wasn't that bad. However, she suddenly remembered what she had said to Zhao Fu before the world had been destroyed. She had spoken badly about him to his face, and Yingxi's face became pale. She cursed herself for being too stupid to say such things to his face. She was definitely doomed. At the same time, Yingxi completely understood why Wu Qingyang had chosen to enter the Qin state. It was because the man she had chosen had always been the emperor of the Qin state. If she did not enter the Qin state, who else would enter the Qin state? He was truly blind. With his heaven-defying luck, he had actually managed to find Prince Qin. Unfortunately, because he was blind, he had not been able to see Zhao Fu's true value and had even given him to Wu Qingyang. Now, Yingxi felt incredibly regretful. Before, when Wu Qingyang had said that Zhao Fu would have extraordinary achievements in the future, she hadn't believed it. After all, Zhao Fu didn't seem like much, and how could she have known that he was the emperor of the Qin state? Extraordinary achievements? Now, he was even more godly. If she had known that Zhao Fu was the emperor of the Qin state, perhaps he would have had great power in the Qin state. However, that was impossible now, and there was no way for her to start over. All of you rise. In the beginning, we didn't want to return to the Ying family, nor did we want to accept the Ying family as the Qin state's royal clan. However, we are still a member of the Ying family, and when we were acting as the clan leader, you all performed quite well, so we can acknowledge your identities. Zhao Fu, who was sitting on his throne, looked at the Ying family members kneeling on the ground in fear as he spoke in a dignified voice. This caused the Ying family members to let out a sigh of relief, and their sadness turned into joy. They felt incredibly grateful towards Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu gave them some rewards before concluding the meeting. After the meeting concluded, Wu Qingyang, who had been waiting by the side, walked out. Yingxi looked at Wu Qingyang and could not help but feel a lump in her throat. She leapt into Wu Qingyang's embrace and started to cry. She was happy to see Wu Qingyang, but she also felt remorseful and guilty. What is it, little she? Did that bad person bully you? Wu Qingyang raised her head and glared at Zhao Fu, while Zhao Fu looked incredibly innocent because he hadn't done anything. Yingxi shook her head and explained, Zhao Fu didn't bully me. I was just scared by his identity. Also, I'm so happy to see you. So that's what it was. I never thought that that fellow was actually Emperor Qin, and I was quite shocked. However, he's not as terrifying as the rumors say, and he's quite nice to people, Wu Qingyang said as she lightly laughed. Zhao Fu saw that they were good sisters and did not disturb them. After all, the real world had just been destroyed, and there were many things for Zhao Fu to take care of. Following this, Zhao Fu's uncle's family heard about this, and they looked incredibly shocked. They had never thought that Zhao Fu was the supreme, savage, and ruthless Emperor Qin. Was this the same Zhao Fu that they knew? Was this the same Zhao Fu who was their relative? Now, they truly did not dare to believe this. After all, this Zhao Fu was far too different from the Emperor Qin from the rumors. If it wasn't for the fact that the entire Ying family knew about this, they would have thought that this was fake. They then thought about what had happened before. They had almost been chased out of the Ying family by Zhao Fu, and if it wasn't for their maternal grandparents pleading for them. Thinking about what they had done to Zhao Fu in the past, their faces became incredibly pale, and they felt incredibly regretful. They hated themselves for being so stupid and offending him in the past. In the future, they would not have any hope at all. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu's cousin's face became incredibly pale. He remembered how he had cursed Zhao Fu back then, saying that he was nothing and that he was just a dog in front of Emperor Qin who had been lucky enough to be favored by a good master. Zhao Fu's cousin had never thought that Zhao Fu was Emperor Qin. How could this be? How could he be the supreme Emperor Qin? He did not dare to believe this news, and at the same time, he felt a lingering fear. He was most likely the only person who had dared to curse at Emperor Qin like this and not die. After all, anyone who dared to curse at Emperor Qin like this would definitely be cut into thousands of pieces and executed. Zhao Fu's cousin sighed and shook his head. Now, he hoped that Zhao Fu would not kill them. That would be enough, and he could let go of Zheng Jiao's matter. After all, it was her own choice. Zhao Fu's uncle and auntie knelt in front of the two elders and cried, begging them to bring them into the Qin Imperial Palace to see Zhao Fu and apologize to him. As long as they could vent their anger, they would do anything, and they asked the two elders to think about their two grandsons. Now that they knew that Zhao Fu was Great Qin's legatee, he would be able to casually take over a few cities. If that happened, their family would not have to worry for the rest of their lives, and they would be high and mighty city lords. Originally, it was only Zhao Fu's grandparents who did not want to go. However, after Zhao Fu's uncle and auntie continuously cried and begged, they decided to go to Zhao Fu and beg for mercy. However, they could not even enter the Qin Imperial Palace, and they were given a medium-sized courtyard. A manager coldly harumphed, "From now on, you will live here." His Majesty has already done everything he could. If you continue to look for His Majesty, he will definitely expel you from Qin." Hearing this, Zhao Fu's uncle and his family's faces paled. Chapter 955. As for Great Qin's legatee, who had been hiding his identity this entire time, no one knew his true identity. Great Qin's legatee's true identity had always been an unsolved mystery in the human world, and now that this secret had been revealed, it was easy to imagine the commotion it caused. No one would have thought that the lucky person chosen by Prince Qin, Zhao Fu, was actually Prince Qin. All of this was because Zhao Fu was too mediocre and ordinary. He was just an ordinary, minor figure. Even though Zhao Fu had become Great Qin's legatee's representative and everyone knew about him, everyone understood that he was just Great Qin's legatee's puppet. How could they look up to such a person? They did not care much about such a person. Now, not only were the legatees and the rulers of kingdoms shocked by this news, such as CG, Tina Pendragon, Akhenaten, Jeffrey, and many others. None of them had thought that Great Qin's legatee, who was incredibly ferocious and bloodthirsty, would have been such an ordinary minor figure. Perhaps if such a minor figure had appeared in front of them, they wouldn't have even looked at him. At the same time, many people felt admiration for an ordinary person without any faction or resources. He had built up such a grand and powerful Qin empire by himself. Some people felt quite regretful. They had never thought that Prince Qin, who the Ying family had not been able to find, had been hiding in the Ying family this entire time. If they had known this, they would have allied together to destroy the Ying family. That way, they would have been able to kill Prince Qin as well. Once Prince Qin died, the Qin Empire would naturally collapse, and their threat would be gone. They would not have ended up like this. It was a pity that there was no medicine for regret in the world. Now, apart from regret, they could only sigh. The Qin Empire had taken over half of the continent, and their future was filled with darkness without any light or hope. After the large factions found out about Zhao Fu's true identity, they at most felt shocked and regretful. However, there was one faction that reacted the most, and everyone looked incredibly shocked. They could not believe this was true, and that faction was the Great Tang's family. When the Li family's old patriarch found out that the illegitimate child was Prince Qin, he felt as if he'd been struck by a heavy blow and his mind went blank. He then coughed up a mouthful of blood and looked as if he had aged 10 or so years. His eyes became empty, and he became listless. Lija was Zhao Fu's father, and his expression was incredibly unsightly. He had never thought that a woman he had casually played with would give birth to such a terrifying figure. That despicable bastard child was Prince Qin. Li Baiqing was also incredibly shocked, and he had never thought that the minor figure he had looked down on, the person he had never thought highly of, and the person who did not deserve to be his big brother, was actually the famous Prince Qin of the human world. The entire Li family was shrouded in a haze, and everyone's faces were deathly pale. Their hearts were filled with fear and despair, and their bodies trembled. If there was a faction that Prince Qin wanted to destroy the most, the Li family would definitely be ranked first. After all, for everything that the Li family had done to Zhao Fu would definitely take revenge 10 times over. Originally, Lija had abandoned Zhao Fu and his mother because of Zhao Fu's mother. He did not want to get involved in this matter, and he just wanted to live a good life. However, the Li family's old patriarch had directly ordered Zhao Fu to be killed, showing no mercy at all. Moreover, after the first assassination had failed, he had tried to assassinate Zhao Fu a second time. This hatred could not be reconciled, and Zhao Fu would take revenge for both the new and the old. All of the Li family's people would die. The Li family would also be destroyed, and even Great Tang would disappear at his hands. After receiving emergency treatment, the Li family's old patriarch's face recovered a bit of color, but it was still quite unsightly. He gathered everyone to discuss this matter. Now, as the Li family's illegitimate child, he had become Prince Qin. This person, who the Li family had looked down on and viewed as a laughingstock, and someone who could be killed at any time, had actually achieved so much. He felt a bone-deep hatred towards the Li family. If this matter was not dealt with properly, not only would all of the Li family's people die, but they would also die miserably. After all, the Li family's people he hated the most were the Li family's people. No matter how powerful his enemies were, they could not give Zhao Fu more hatred than the Li family. After everyone gathered together, the Li family's old patriarch sighed and said, "What should we do now? Are we just going to watch as Great Tang is destroyed by this illegitimate child?" An old woman looked at the Li family's old patriarch and said somewhat reproachfully, "Back then, I told you to control your son, and you said that men should be more dissolute. You said that as your son, he should be like this. If you had controlled him properly, this wouldn't have happened. Also, back then, I also told you to take in that mother and son. With the Li family's wealth, taking in those two people would only be a drop in the bucket, yet you said that you couldn't keep them. That would be a humiliation to your family. Now that that child has such power, if he could work for the Li family, just think about how wonderful that would be. At that time, it wouldn't be Qin sweeping across the world, but Great Tang unifying the world. It would be the Great Tang that would make people fear it. Without him, how could Qin have such terrifying power? It was you who gave such a shocking person to the Ying family. And I don't know how lucky the Ying family was to obtain such a world-shaking person. Hearing this, the Li family's old patriarch felt incredibly regretful. If he had taken in the mother and son back then, Great Tang would have been in a completely different situation. It really might have been Great Tang unifying the world, not Qin. His most promising grandson, the most outstanding person in the Li family, had become dim in front of this person. If he had been able to come out, things would not have turned out like this. However, there was no turning back now, and the Li family's old patriarch felt quite resentful. If he had been a bit more ruthless and killed the mother and son from the start, this would not have happened, and the Li family would not have faced such a calamity. Sitting next to him, Li Baiqing felt quite uncomfortable because reality had proven that he could not compare to Zhao Fu. His half-brother, Prince Qin, had always made him feel fear, and he knew that he would never be able to surpass Prince Qin in his lifetime. He couldn't even compare to a single finger of Prince Qin. When he thought of that, Li Baiqing's expression became quite unsightly. Sitting next to him was an extremely beautiful, seductive, and noble woman. She stretched out her hand and held Li Baiqing's cold hand as she gave him a gentle smile and comforted him, saying, "Baiqing, I believe that you're the most outstanding person in the world. I don't like Great Qin's legatee. I only like you. That's why I chose you." Chapter 956. Facing his lover's consolation, Li Baiqing felt a warmth in his heart and forced a smile as he said, I'll work hard and won't lose to him." Next to him, a beautiful and gentle-looking woman could not help but cry. She was Li Zhe's wife, Zhang Shuyun, and she came from a large family. She felt quite guilty and said, if she could accept that mother and son, this wouldn't have happened. If she hadn't married Li Zhe, perhaps that Qin's legatee would have been Great Tang's legatee. Li Zhe was Zhao Fu's father, and seeing his wife cry out of guilt, his heart ached. He truly loved this wife, and even though they were dissolute, he had always treated Zhang Shuyun as his only wife, and no one could replace her. Li Zhe held Zhang Shuyun in his arms and comforted her in a warm voice. "Honey, it's not because of you. Even without you, I wouldn't have fallen for that bitch. How could that bitch compare to you?" Zhang Shuyun's eyes were completely red, and her heart was filled with sweetness as she lightly hugged Li Zhe. Seeing the two of them acting so intimately, the Li family's old master immediately scolded loudly. "Why do I have such a stupid son like you? What time is it now? And you're still only thinking about women. Do you want to watch that unfilial son of yours destroy the entire Li family?" Facing the Li family's old patriarchs yelling, Zhang Shuyun let go of Li Zhe and lowered her head. Li Zhe said somewhat angrily, "How could I have thought that bastard would have such accomplishments? If I had killed him long ago, I'll go to Qin's legatee and have him come to the Li family to kowtow and apologize. I'm his father, and if that bastard dares to disobey me, I'll kill him on the spot." Hearing such stupid words, the Lee family's old patriarch was so angry that his face turned red as he roared. "If that unfilial son can kill you and let the Lee family off, I definitely won't hesitate to send you to him. Get the hell out of here right now." Leisha also cried out in dissatisfaction. "I'm his father, and he's my son. I can do whatever I want him to do. Does he dare to kill me? Even if I gave him 100 guts, he wouldn't dare to do so. Now that he dares to treat the Lee family like this, I'll go and break his legs myself." With that, Leisha really stood up and stormed out of the room in anger. The Lee family's old patriarch pointed at Leisha, so angry that he couldn't speak. How could there be such an idiot? How could he have given birth to two imperial princes? One was the Great Tang's legatee, and the other was Qin's legatee. Li Baiqing sided his father and ordered people to stop him. Great Qin's legatee was famous for being ruthless and cold-blooded, and even though Li Baiqing's father was his own father, with how much hatred he had for him, it was possible that he really would kill his father. Even if Li Zhu went, nothing would change. His death would be in vain, and it might even deepen the conflict between him and the Li clan. What should I do now? Back then, he hadn't known that he was Qin's imperial prince, but now that he knew, he had to do something. Otherwise, if this continued, Qin had already conquered half of the continent, and it seemed that he would lose the other half as well. Everyone understood this, so they all looked at the Li family's old patriarch. After all, he was the master of the family, and everything was up to him. Facing everyone's gazes, the Li family's old patriarch could only sigh and say in an aged voice, "Right now, we can only do everything we can to express our apologies and acknowledge his mother's position in the Li family. We will also officially list Zhao Fu as a descendant of the Li family, hoping that this will ease the relationship between them." Also, the Li family's old patriarch paused and looked at Li Zhe as he said, "The most important thing is you. You have to express your regret. Only then will it be possible to ease the relationship between them." However, Li Zhe retorted discontentedly, "I won't acknowledge that unfilial son, nor will I accept that woman. I didn't do anything wrong." Hearing this, the Li family's old patriarch looked at Li Zhe coldly, causing Li Zhe to feel a chill run down his spine. He was familiar with his father, and he knew that the Li family's old patriarch was going to do this to him. Following this, the entire world was sent into an uproar. No one had thought that legatee Qin and the Li family would have such a relationship. They also felt sorry for the Li family. They had given such a shocking person to someone else. If they had kept legatee Qin in the Li family, he would have definitely become the legatee of Great Tang, and Great Tang might have unified the world. It was a pity that fate made fools of people. More importantly, the Li family had not killed legatee Qin in the end. With legatee Qin's immense power, the entire Li family would have suffered. Now, almost everyone who was smart understood that it was best not to have any contact with the Li family, or else they would not even know how they died. At most, they only had ordinary enmity with Qin, but they had great enmity with the Li family. Immediately, all of the factions treated Great Tang coldly, which made the Li family feel very embarrassed. However, there was nothing they could do about it. They could only hope that the relationship between legatee Qin and them would improve. Not only would they receive better treatment, but they might also not be destroyed, and they might even be able to establish Great Tang with Qin's help. After all, legatee Qin was a member of the Li family, and he still had the Li family's royal bloodline. This was something that could not be changed. Zhao Fu sat in the main hall expressionlessly. The atmosphere was quite oppressive, and no one dared to breathe loudly. There were more than 20 people kneeling in front of the main hall. One of them was a messenger sent by Great Tang, and the other 20 were top beauties chosen by Great Tang. The Great Tang messenger knelt on the ground and said nervously, "Your Majesty Qin, this is a small gift from the Li family. The Li family's old patriarch, your father, and your little brother have each sent a letter to your Majesty, expressing their remorse and apology. Your father has also written a letter in blood, hoping to obtain your Majesty's forgiveness." These words caused the temperature in the main hall to plummet. This was a taboo topic in Zhao Fu's heart, and no one dared to mention it. Even Li Si, who had obtained all of Zhao Fu's information, did not dare to say a single word, as even he could be heavily punished. Under this formless emperor's aura, the great Tang messenger's body felt cold, and he could not help but tremble. However, he gritted his teeth and endured, as he had come with the resolve to die. The main hall was deathly silent, and no one made sound. Zhao Fu coldly looked at the great Tang messenger, not saying anything for a long time. Chapter 9:57. Hearing how resolute Zhao Fu was, the great Tang ambassador thought of his goal and mustered up his courage as he raised his head and yelled, "Your Majesty, they are your family. This is a blood relationship that you cannot change. Also, the Li family knows its wrongs and hopes that you can forgive them. As long as you are willing to forgive the Li family, we will do anything. We have no relationship with the Li family at all. I told you to take these things and scram. Did you not hear me? Do you really want me to kill you?" Zhao Fu said furiously, giving off a wave of killing intent. All of the ministers felt a chill and understood that their Majesty was truly angry. They could not help but feel nervous because they understood Zhao Fu's personality. If he was truly angry, he would do anything. At that moment, a pair of guards hurried in and grabbed the great Tang ambassador. The great Tang ambassador struggled as he yelled, "Your Majesty, regardless of whether you admit it or not, you are still a descendant of the Li family. Could it be that you would kill your ancestors, your brothers, and your father? You are the emperor of the great Qin. Are you not afraid of being laughed at by the world?" Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out, and before the great Tang ambassador could finish speaking, a massive formless energy caused his head to explode. Blood and brains splattered everywhere, splattering all of the people around him, causing everyone to feel terror. Zhao Fu sat on the throne with a furious look on his face as he walked out of the palace with his hands behind his back. The guards took back all of the things that the Li family had sent, and they did not want any treasures or women, including the great Tang ambassador's corpse. Because Zhao Fu had left, the ministers felt quite nervous and fearful, and they could only disperse. Li Si hurriedly found Wu Qingyang and Nu Lu and said, "Imperial concubines, His Majesty is truly angry this time. This is the first time this lowly official has seen His Majesty like this, and it might have something to do with His Majesty's past. Imperial concubines are His Majesty's most beloved people, so please help His Majesty. Right now, His Majesty cannot let such a small matter affect his health." Hearing this, Wu Qingyang and Nu Lu felt quite startled, and they understood that it was rare for Zhao Fu to be so angry. Nu Lu looked quite worried. She did not know what Zhao Fu had gone through since he was young. Wu Qingyang nodded in understanding. Ever since she had come into contact with Zhao Fu, she had investigated Zhao Fu and knew that Zhao Fu's past wasn't very pleasant. Wu Qingyang smiled and said a few words in Nu Lu's ear, causing Nu Lu's face to become red. She looked at Wu Qingyang and said, "Qingyang, is this really okay?" Wu Qingyang lightly harumphed and said confidently, "He'll definitely be able to do it." After doing all this, the Li family had really put in a lot of effort and sincerity, hoping that the relationship between the Li family and Zhao Fu could be eased. Of course, this was based on the fact that Qin was too powerful, and the Li family was no match for him. If Zhao Fu was weak, and they were very powerful, they would definitely choose to kill him. The assassination of Zhao Fu was a good proof. However, facing their efforts and sincerity, Zhao Fu could not care less, and had even killed Great Tang's ambassador. His attitude was so resolute that the Li family's people felt a chill in their hearts, and they understood that there was no room for reconciliation. What should they do now? Now that Qin was so powerful, even if so many people joined hands, they would not be a match for him. They could only stall for a while. In the end, all of Great Tang's factions would be destroyed, and the Li family would not be able to resist. After thinking for a long time, the old man of the Li family could only continue to express goodwill. He first ordered people to collect all of Prince Qin's likes and dislikes. Then, he locked Li Zhu up and told him to reflect on his actions. He guessed that Zhao Fu hated him the most. If he knelt in front of Zhao Fu and cried and begged him, there might be a chance for things to turn around. Facing the old man of the Li family's decision, Li Zhen naturally did not agree. Li Baiqing could not stand it and tried to persuade him, but the old man's attitude was very firm. After all, the legacy of Great Tang was the most important. Now, if the legacy of Great Tang was not destroyed, the old man of the Li family would probably kill Li Zhe. After all, the legacy of his ancestors could not be in his hands. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.